Fix my mic. There we go. Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy, Hip Hop Lobbies. Hope everybody's having a good Monday, or had a good Monday, had a good weekend, a good Father's Day. Make sure my levels are right before we get to where we're going. All that good jazz. Again, welcome back to the channel. Fix my mic. There we go. Welcome back to the channel. All right, that's so I sound kind of good. I double check my levels there. All right, so get my basic setup together. I had a good Father's Day weekend. I'll start there. Spent time with my mother-in-law, father-in-law, and my son, of course, through the weekend, and dropped them off with the grandparents, of course, so another grandparent week. It's pretty good. I'm going back to get them later this week, so I'll be streaming today, most likely tomorrow, sometime Wednesday before I get back out of town to go get him and my wife. So that'll work. But or anything, I hope y'all had a good, safe weekend. I know that there was a lot going on between the Israel and Iran, I guess, war, or I don't know how you kind of unsettling that's happening in the Middle East. The No Kings protests, which really didn't honestly do anything, if we're going to be real, because they protested and still went back to work today with the same problems they complained about on Friday. And nothing changed because guess what? We're still, in some ways under the same presidential leadership. So you didn't overthrow the government. You just blocked up the roads. And in some states, you couldn't block up the roads, like our Governor DeSantis, America's governor, said, listen, hey, if they block up your cars, run them over. It is what it is. George Floyd. Why do people come on here and say that? Yes. Does that make you feel good? Did mentioning George Floyd, that makes you feel good? I mean, I don't know what the reason would be. Did you know eating is essential? I did, but actually just been studying today. I had a good lunch. We'll see where it goes from there. How long you been like this? Oh, we must have some trawlers on the stream tonight. I love it, man. Hey, Bob. Tapping from North Carolina. But today's stream, I'm going to do something a little different. Some of you know we've grown faster than I expected. So the things I had planned to do, hey, we can get to 2,500 subs at the end of June. Cool, we'll go from there. And, we'll release these new things, right? Guess what? We're over 3,500 subs so far. So, brother, my bad. Okay. English is not my first language. I got you. Don't worry about it. So something I want to unveil today are new laws that have dropped to impact the culture in your community. I'm going to start off in my state, the state of Florida, before I expand and cover other states like the great state of Texas and California and New York and Arkansas and other states, right? But not just those specific, but laws that could really impact your quality of life. And I think the biggest thing I'll start off with, let me switch over here. In Florida, on July 1st, super speeders. Essentially, if you are an excessive speeder in the state that are going 50 miles over the speed limit or over 100 miles per hour, they will be looking for you. Now, I know people like to do it South Beach, going up 95, 75, different areas. But it's really for a fact of not only them looking to increase, the potential impact on jail beds, but also a fact of protecting people who are on the roads. Because a lot of times you're speeding, trying to get somewhere, you may be going on 80 and a 30. You're just like, hey, I'm just trying to speed home. It's a runway, like nobody's on the stretch road with me. Guess what? There could be an old lady walking that happened to be taking a nightly stroll that you don't see, that you happen to run over because you're going too fast to notice. They're coming after you to help avoid those situations, right? Now, this bill, 75 yeas, 38 nays, we're not going to get into the breakdown of it, but the bill creates a criminal offense for dangerous or excessive speeding. Speeding by 50 miles per hour or more of the limit, of course, at 100 miles per hour or more in a manner that threatens the safety of other persons and property. Now, the first conviction, 30 days in jail, a $500 fine, or both. The second, 90 days in jail and a $1,000 fine. Now, I don't know anybody who has to get anywhere in a rush that can afford to sit in jail for potentially 30 days for speeding. Right? So if you're coming from other states, you want to say, hey, in Florida, the second you get to Palm Beach County and 95 opens up, you can race all the way to South Beach if you're coming down, 95 and racing or whatever, right? But they're looking for those ones. So just make sure that this bill goes into effect July 1. So 4th of July weekend, there's no need to race. The speed limit 70. Don't push it 120. Let's just make that. That's the first one. The other one here, the bill summary. No, that's the budget. Hold on. Actually, I'll start there. Let me get to. I did have another one that was pretty good. Utility workers. Senate Bill 1386. Now, this one I know because I sit as a legislative chair for an energy association in Florida. And one of the things I learned about is when people are going to have let me rephrase that. When utility workers are going in certain communities, whether it's rural or urban areas, the hood, sometimes they attack utility workers. And sometimes it could be a point of saying, all right, cool, they're coming in to assess, improve, meters, whatever it may be, or just read meters. But then you think they're coming to cut off your lights, and then you jump the utility work and you think hey, we at least get another 3, 4, 5 days of power. And it just doesn't happen in Florida. This happens throughout the country, right? This is the law that Florida's putting in place to say, hey, basically, utility workers get attacked. If they're wearing their badge or whatever it may be, it would now most likely be, as I believe read through this, hold on. All the charges basically get bumped up in an aspect. So don't attack your utility workers, in short. The effects of proposed bill, an assault on utility worker is from a second-degree misdemeanor to a first-degree misdemeanor. Battery, first-degree misdemeanor to a third-degree felony. Aggravated assault, from a third-degree felony to a second-degree, and aggravated battery, a second-degree felony to a first-degree felony. So all the charges from the bill in itself, it doesn't make sense to attack utility workers. I get it. Some people may feel that they get off by attacking people who are actually doing their job, but it actually goes to effects of there was a situation in a rural area in Florida where utility workers were coming to fix a line, right? And I guess the owner thought that the line was on their property. Somebody was going to steal their line, their cable, or their power, whatever. Or maybe they didn't want their power cut off, and they essentially shot at the utility workers. So it's a way to provide safety, right? On top of it, it's one of those laws that Florida doesn't really talk about, right? Or you won't really read the headlines because it's not too controversial. Like one I found earlier, let me get to it. House Bill 597 expands diabetes management in public schools, authorizing school districts and public schools to use or maintain undesignated glucagon, I hope I pronounced that right, for students with diabetes experiencing hemoglobin emergencies. Now, this is really an effort to save kids. And it's not only this, but there's also another bill for, that's not it. I should have had these in better order. There's another bill that passed in Florida to authorize at least the marketing of diabetes or first type 1 diabetes detection in schools. I think that when kids are eating wrap snacks and unhealthy foods, or even the fact of them not eating at all or having one meal at school a day, it does get into a fact of saying, all right, cool, for potential kids who have diabetes, how do you detect it early? 1, and 2, for the parents who may not be able to afford it, to have the prepared medicine at school for these emergencies, or maybe they're running low. You never know what people's situation could be. This is an effort by the state of Florida to actually make sure something is there. I should have did a better job organizing it. I thought I did, but clearly it got mixed up in the Google Forms. But either way, that's just some of the new laws that are dropping. I'm going to get through some more because there are about 90 new laws that go into effect July 1 in about 2 or 3 weeks. Some will impact you, some won't. Some are just, not to say like filler bills, but more like statutory changes, getting some old books off the laws. But some things are actually innovative, especially when it comes to education of our kids. So let me switch this over to President Trump. I know it was a busy weekend for the president. Not this video. With everything happening, I'll get to the chat in a second, but let me get to President Trump, who just spoke earlier at the G7 and say he's coming back from the G7 because of the Israel and Iran conflict. They say Iran wants to have the U.S. broker a deal to bring it all back in. So let's see where we are from here. Appreciate y'all tapping in. Make sure my audio is right here. I'll turn it up more because the wind's picking up more than me though.
For both of us. Great.
Has anything changed in the agreement?
And here I am.
And here you are.
Yeah.
So can I ask you, sir, have you spoken to Prime Minister Netanyahu? When might you speak
I'm
to
gonna
him?
fix this in a second. Y'all let me just try
What will you
to.
say?
Israel is doing very well, as you probably noticed. And I gave Iran 60 days, and they said no. And the 61st, you saw what happened. Day 61. So I'm in constant touch. And as I've been saying, I think a deal will be signed, or something will happen, but a deal will be signed. And I think Iran is foolish not to sign one.
Mr. President, Iran is accusing Netanyahu of attacking them to deliberately derail your nuclear plan that you had. What do you say to that? Do you think that's true?
No. Look, Iran should have signed the deal.
If it would help bring Iran to the negotiating table, would you guarantee that the U.S. would not get involved militarily?
Well, I think Iran basically is at the negotiating table. They want to make a deal. And as soon as I leave here, we're going to be doing something. But I have to leave here. I have, this commitment. I have a lot of commitments. I have a commitment to a lot of countries, including the UK, where we just signed our deal.
Mr. President, Ukraine, Mr. President, when will
settling on steel terms, effectively, going to zero, or do you think
We're gonna let you have that information in a little while.
Can you guarantee the
talks, sir, on U.S.-Russia talks, when will they restart?
They're starting already.
Mr. President, do you agree to the European push to apply more sanctions on Russia? Do the US support that?
Well, Europe is saying that, but they haven't done it yet. Let's see them do it first.
You told me earlier that you could sanction Russia. Why wait? Why wait to sanction them?
Because I'm waiting to see whether or not a deal is signed.
Can you guarantee the UK won't be subject
And don't
to any
forget, sanctions cost us a lot of money. When I sanction a country, that costs the U.S. a lot of money, a tremendous amount of money. It's not just let's sign a document. You're talking about billions and billions of dollars. Sanctions are not that easy. It's not just a one-way street.
And just quickly, do you think that Israel can...
Is that still proceeding? Do you think this is sort of what you look at?
Yep, we're proceeding with that. It's a really important deal to both of us. I think the President is doing a review. We did a review when we came into government, so that makes good sense to me. But it's a really important...
We're very long-time partners and allies and friends, and we've become friends in a short period of time. He's slightly more liberal than I am, to put it mildly.
we stand slightly on the left.
But for some reason we get along.
We make it work.
Mr. President, did you just say Ukraine giving away of arming Israel?
There's quite a few British voters who worry you side more with the Russians over the Ukraine war. Can you reassure them?
No. I just, you know what I say? I don't, saving lives. I only care about saving lives. We have nothing to do with it except that Biden stupidly let us get into that mess and gave them $350 billion. $350 billion. And yet, despite that, you saw how we did in the Middle East. We took in $5.1 trillion.
Real quick, when I hear these numbers, and I'm going to switch over this because the lows from Trump are kind of low, right? Is it all weapons or is it all cash? Like, I know we did like some stuff even with Russia to get Brittany Griner back, whatever, right? That's my thing. It's like all that money is like, bruh, respectfully, we could put that in America for real and change a lot. And I'm not saying like give people the 1250 checks, not the PPP checks, but the y'all know the checks I'm talking about. I didn't get one, right? But there's a lot of money that could have been, or resources that could have been spent in America for $300+ billion. But some of it is still being spent, right? Like case in point, and I could go through the budget, Florida's budget later. It's like we attack certain parts of what Biden does, especially with this Iran situation. But what would have the other administration have done different, right? I honestly don't see how it makes sense that Biden would do this. And maybe it's just because I don't watch international politics as much, right? To be honest, it's just I'm more domestic. So if you're looking for international perspectives, you're not going to get it from me. I'm just going to listen and give my 2 cents, but a lot of this is some bullshit.
We have $15 trillion almost, looking around that number, going to be invested in the U.S. So the money is not the thing in this case. It's 5,000 young people are being killed every week in Russia, Ukraine.
We're talking about Russia, Ukraine. My apologies. No, and I thought he was talking about Iran because I didn't know we gave any money to Iran, right? But for that piece, a lot of it was money and guns. So that piece I have read up on, but the other part of it being, I thought it was Iran. Like, yeah, I didn't know we were giving money to Iran to build nuclear weapons. So my apologies there, I'm being confused.
So you could say, what am I doing? But I'd like to
Can't
see
hear
if
the
I
question,
can
so you know.
Do you think that Israel
Pretty
can
solid still.
eliminate the threat that Iran poses, this nuclear threat that they pose, without the United States military help?
Who said that?
No, I'm asking if you believe they can without
It doesn't.
the
It's
help.
irrelevant. Something's going to happen.
Have you spoken to the
Consider
legislators?
traveling to the Mideast as part of any talks if it would help broker a deal?
Yeah, but I think we're doing pretty well. We're talking.
You don't think
We have a thing called a telephone, so we're talking. But it's always better to talk in person.
Mr. President,
regime change in Iran?
I want to see no nuclear weapon in Iran, and we're well on our way to making sure that happens.
We've had a discussion about that this morning. There's in the G7 absolute clarity in relation to the nuclear program. We do not want to see it.
Mr. President,
do you have a response
From any future tariffs?
What?
Can you guarantee the UK will be protected from any future tariffs?
The UK is very well protected. You know why? Because I like them. That's why. That's their ultimate protection. Thank you very much.
Wow. It's pretty powerful. Pretty powerful end statement. Hold on. We go to man Byron Donalds. I know he had this thing last week. I really didn't catch up on a lot of news, so bear with me if you've seen some of this. I haven't seen any of it. But we'll see how
Your lady yields back. Chair, and I recognize Mr. Donalds from Florida.
last week.
Thank you, Chairman. To piggyback off my colleague, Governor Pritzker, how much does the state of Illinois spend on illegal immigration every year?
Again, illegal immigration, that's a federal responsibility. They could tell how much is wasted as a result of their failures.
Governor, don't you keep track of how many people are on your Medicaid rolls, how many people who are illegal immigrants in the state of Illinois who are getting actually benefits in your state? Doesn't your government keep track of that?
They don't get Medicaid in Illinois or any state, as far as I know.
Governor Pritzker, you do not keep track of any public service dollars in the state of Illinois that goes to illegal immigrants or goes to people in your state who are not legal residents of the United States. and of the state of Illinois. You don't keep track of that.
We absolutely keep track of our budget, and we're very closely, and in fact, it's been balanced for 7 years in a row, unlike the Republican before me, yeah.
You know, it's interesting. I noticed that in the state of Illinois, you guys don't really keep track of your money, because I asked your mayor in Chicago similar question about a month ago, and he didn't have an answer. It was quite interesting. I think this might be an Illinois problem. Governor Hochul, in your state, you are spending about roughly $4 billion on illegal immigration. And at the same time, you are actually asking the federal government for $4 billion to finish Penn Station. Don't you think it would be better to stop funding illegal immigrants in your state and actually use those resources to finish Penn Station as opposed to coming to the federal government for the money?
Penn Station is owned by Amtrak, not by the state, so it's an appropriate use of their dollars, and Donald Trump has agreed to spend upwards of $7 billion. I appreciated that very much. What we spend on immigrants, the immigrants who are here hardworking to live a life and working on our farms and taking care of our parents in nursing homes and taking care of our children, they have been coming here for 400 years. And we don't keep track of individuals based on their status. We make sure that people have services so we don't end up with an unexpected.
So essentially what you're telling me is that you keep no track of money that is going to people who are not legal in the United States, resources that are taken away from New Yorkers, resources that are taken away from Illinoisans. You guys do not keep track of any of this.
You know what's really challenging is that many people came here with legal status. I mean, temporary protective status, 300,000.
Do you
all of a sudden they wake up one day and it's gone.
Do you go along with the strategy from the Biden administration, which massively expanded immigration protocols that overwhelmed your city and overwhelmed your state? Do you agree with that?
We call for secure borders. We call for this body to
I never
do its
remember
job.
you calling for a secure border.
Hold on now. I'm gonna pause it real quick for my man Byron. I know my man's running for governor, but you got to be real. As a brother, they're not gonna let you be this aggressive against a female candidate. I think you may get a brother, a Caucasian brother by the name of David Jolly. You can attack this truthful. But if the Democrats put up a woman, I don't think you can be this forceful in your aggressive attack. Even though I know, it's more procedural because you're in Congress right now, right? But the messaging isn't going to look good because they're going to make him look darker. They're going to box in his edge a little more, bring in the thug narrative, and they're going to make him look like, damn, look how he's talking to white women like that. It's going to make people feel uncomfortable. Uncomfortable as they were with the last black man who ran for governor. He made everything a little hip-hop-ish. But that's not this stream. To the main point, if my dog BD sees this stream, you have to tone it down when you actually, hey, whoever the Democrat is, or even if it's a Republican in your race, you can't be this aggressive, bro. Just my 2 cents.
What is it all, Governor Hochul?
We certainly have.
That doesn't sound like him to my memory.
Many conversations I had with the White House. We asked for federal resources. I mean, you're putting a federal problem on our laps, and you know what? It gets old after a while. I wish you would just do your job.
If your party actually would do the job of securing the nation the way President Trump has now had to do twice, we wouldn't be in this predicament. Wouldn't you agree? Do you agree or disagree that securing the nation's borders is the job of the President of the United States? President Trump has done that job twice now.
Well,
and previous Democrat presidents have not done that job. Wouldn't you agree with that?
What are you saying?
This has been a problem that's been in place since I was a young staffer here on Capitol Hill. We worked on immigration, and Ronald Reagan signed amnesty for 3 million people.
It's interesting you bring up Reagan's amnesty in '86. Part of that deal was to actually build border wall and secure it. But the Democrat Party refuses to build border wall. You oppose it every single time. Is that your position? Do you now support border walls,
There has been many times when bipartisan legislation is presented to this body and people just walk away from it. They refuse to do the hard work of governing like governors like us have to do every single day. When I leave here, I'm going to go home and govern a state. I'm not going to tweet about this experience because I have too much work to do taking care of New Yorkers. And
you're really not doing a good job, Governor Hochul, because a lot of New Yorkers are actually coming into my state. In Florida, many of them, they come all the time because they actually want to come to a state that is well run, that protects citizens, does not allow illegal aliens to victimize citizens like they are victimized in the state of New York like they are victimized in the state of Illinois, like they are victimized in the state of Minnesota, they choose states like Florida and Texas to find safer places to live and raise their families. Hold on, Governor Hochul.
Our crime rates are much
Governor
lower
Walz,
than
you've been
yours,
sitting over there
much
pretty
lower.
quiet. I got a question for you.
I love to talk. Thank you, Congressman.
Fair enough. You said earlier that the ICE agents under the orders of President Trump are a modern-day Gestapo. Do you realize how disgusting a phrase that is, considering the history of Nazi Germany? Would you like to recant that statement?
What I said, Congressman, and I have a long history of supporting law enforcement, I said President Trump was using them as his modern-day Gestapo, not identifying who you are, coming up in unmarked vans, taking people away and giving...
Is it the responsibility of ICE to actually deport illegal aliens in the United States who are here? Isn't that their responsibility?
Yes, it is, Congressman, except that the Constitution is not an inconvenience. It's not an either-or.
Nobody
You
said
can
an
do your
inconvenience.
job and
He have a
practice
responsibility to deport illegal aliens, and the
Through due
president is
process.
going through that process right now.
We are
And
not
let's be very clear, the previous administration, they abused every process there is under border laws to allow more than 10 million people into the country illegally. And this is a burden on all Americans. And so the president is doing his job. So it is sick to refer to Americans who are ICE agents as Gestapo. Governor, you're wrong. You need
All right, yeah, it's a good performative politics after that. Great points, I would say, but the last governor made a good point, actually, what they're saying, actually what they're doing, in California. Let me straighten this out for you. California lawmakers introduced legislation to ban law enforcement from wearing face coverings. Now, I did not have a chance to pull up this actual bill yet, but a pair of lawmakers in California are seeking to ban law enforcement officers in the state from wearing face coverings amid protests in LA against the Trump administration's immigration policies. Now, State Senator Scott Wiener and Jesse Arreguin, I'll just try that, from San Francisco and Oakland, respectively, announced Monday they would be filing Senate Bill 627 to ban local, state, and federal law enforcement from covering their faces when interacting with the public. Now, Senator Wiener, we're announcing new legislation, the No Secret Police Act, to ban local, whatever. I don't know if this is needed, right? I don't know if it's gonna, I don't know. How can I say it? For SWAT and critical situations like that, don't they normally wear face coverings? So outside of ICE, respectively, right? And I use my hands a lot, so appreciate it. And I hope y'all like the new sign. They redid my office a little bit while I was away, right? Happy Father's Day. It's a point of the other law enforcement situations where face coverings may be in the line of duty, typical work, right? Which is kind of crazy to say, okay, cool, let's eliminate and ban these. Excuse me. I always hate burping in your face. I apologize. I do this while I blow to the side. Hold on. I actually got to check my phone. My wife is flying to Phoenix, so I will be looking for her call. When she lands, and then I'll go into another video way before then. So when I go off, just know that I'm on phone to wife situation, right? Y'all are important, but that's why. Anyway, so y'all are not that important. Either way, for California pushing this, well, not even California, for state lawmakers pushing this to California, I don't think they're really considering the reality of the law. Right, that law enforcement has to most likely use face coverings in other situations that aren't ICE agents looking for illegal immigrants to detain, to potentially be deported to due process or not, right? This is more performative politics to me. And even though this is a potential law, I don't think it has any muster because it gets people going and say, you know what, hey, they're going to make sure they ban this from never happening again. No, this is, you might as well just be out there with protesters chanting. Right. So respectfully to the senator and the representative there, this isn't thought through to me. Right. But I haven't read the bill yet. You know what? Actually, while we're here, Senate Bill 627. Let's look up California Assembly. Oh, let's look at the real law. Bill analysis. No, it's 2023. This ain't it. Didn't have this one up. They haven't filed it yet, have they? Wait, nope. That's not it. I'm gonna find it before the stream's up. But to the main point, I think it's more performative. It would be filed, so it hasn't been filed yet. So that's that. What do I have here? Let me get through some other laws. Texas. That doesn't relate yet. Let me get back to the video. Gotta find some. What I didn't have next. Getting caught up in the Windows here. Keyboard went dead, so I'm freestyling on another keyboard, so you know what happens. I'm gonna get to the chat. Haven't looked at the chat yet.
Mr. Chair, and thank you so much to our governors. And I want to say I apologize. I apologize for the abuse that you are facing in this committee that is supposed to be about waste, fraud, and abuse. And I also apologize for wasting your time because this is nothing more than political theater. Now, again, this committee is supposed to be about waste, fraud, and abuse. We did not have to have this faux creation of Doge. The committee itself, that is our job. So what I want to talk about is something that the American people may want to know, which is economically, how is this impacting them? These failed immigration policies that are only put on so that they can have a show, because we have a reality show president who seemingly still believes that this is all about TV instead of real lives. So let me talk about something really quickly, because I want to clarify something, because I believe that all of you understand the importance of something like tourism. Are you aware, any of you, are you aware as to whether or not tourism in the United States is anticipated to decrease to the extent that we are estimated to lose $12.5 billion in international vendor spending in just the year 2025?
I can answer as the tourism capital of the country.
I assume you could.
Tourism's already down. It is down in the North Country, where the Canadians refuse to come over because of the hostility toward their country. It's happening in New York City. It's happening at our sporting events here, our theater. There's a ripple effect throughout our entire economy because of the change in attitude that our country, that once welcomed people from all over the world to visit and recreate and to live here, now feels like a very hostile place to them. It is going to have an economic impact on our bottom line, without a doubt.
So let's talk about it a little bit more. So I am supposed to have a number of FIFA games in Dallas, and I am fully anticipating that we are going to have a problem because I've been receiving phone calls that people don't feel safe coming here, and it's not the immigrants. It's this government that is making them feel unsafe. But let me also do this, because they love to cherry pick. They can find, any one person that has been killed. And if they've been killed by an immigrant, then God darn it, every single immigrant is going out and they are killers. And that is the problem. But they don't want to talk about white supremacy. I don't know how many hearings we're going to have about the fact that there's been this one immigrant that killed this one person. And no, I'm not excusing any killings by them or white supremacists. But they haven't had these hearings. We didn't have a hearing on Buffalo and what happened there. We didn't have a hearing on El Paso and what happened there. We didn't have a hearing on Charleston and what happened there. So it's interesting that they pick and choose because it seems like they love to pal around with the white supremacists.
We got to rewind here now, chat. Wait a minute. I missed this one this weekend. I didn't even get to the No Kings protest. I got to rewind that for a minute. Now, these are facts. Y'all remember the Buffalo shooting when they went to the grocery store? The young man went to the grocery store and killed people on a Sunday while they were shopping at the church. There was no hearing about Charleston massacre when they went in there and they prayed together and the young man killed them. This shit was preaching today now. Listen now. Listen. Damn, I own some Ray-Ban medals. Those look like the Ray-Ban medals, girl. Hey, this Ray-Ban gang. Make sure you get your Ray-Bans. Mine are on the desk. I'm gonna make sure. Hey, they're right here. Hold on. I'm gonna turn it on. Hey, Ray-Ban gang, man. Get your Ray-Bans. Keep growing the channel, because guess what? When I get that affiliate link, we're gonna be dropping the content. Guess what? You can follow me on Instagram. You can see the uploaded content. Because guess what? When you see the quality of the video, you're gonna be like, damn, you recorded that with your glasses? Yes, bro, I got a statement to them. And all the lights just cleared up right now. There we go.
That people don't feel safe coming here. And it's not the immigrants. It's this government that is making them feel unsafe. But let me also do this, because they love to cherry pick. They can find, you know, any one person that has been killed. And if they've been killed by an immigrant, then God darn it, every single immigrant is going out and they are killers. And
sometimes you got to go back to the word and rewind and hear it again. You know, sometimes you got to, and like going to church, I miss going physically to church. Pastor Elwood, shout out to Pastor Elwood, St. Philip's AME in Atlanta, right? I miss going to the physical church, but sometimes I like to rewind the word. And this is one of those moments. So shout out to the pastor, but shout out to Pastor Crockett as well.
And that is the problem. But they don't want to talk about white supremacy. I don't know how many hearings we gonna have about the fact that there's been this one immigrant that killed this one person.
Look at him. He's uncomfortable back there.
I'm not excusing any killings by them or white supremacists. But they haven't had these hearings. We didn't have a hearing on Buffalo and what happened there.
Oh.
We didn't have a hearing on El Paso and what happened there.
Oh.
We didn't have a hearing on Charleston and what happened there.
Oh.
So it's interesting that they pick and choose, because it seems like they love to pal around with the white supremacists and
whoever her speechwriters are, they be on it. You better listen. They better get hired by 50 Cent. If they do a political reality show like 50 Cent, like, don't steal my idea, right? But I'm gonna put it out there so everybody on the stream, go, oh yeah, hip hop lobby, he freestyled this idea. You're right. When you do the reality show about politics, about the real scandals and shit, make sure we go hire Jasmine Crockett, communications person, right? Bring me in as a consultant. I can get a little cameo on that bitch as well for a YouTube channel, and we're gonna keep it rolling. I'm telling you for real.
They don't want to talk about certain other things, but economically, I want to make sure that we're making this point again, because I know that Governor Pritzker, you were the beneficiary of a lot of things from the state of Texas. And a lot of people believe that Republicans are fiscally responsible, but instead they are actually fiscally irresponsible, because what he spent was a whopping $221 million transporting people from Texas to your state. Something tells me that he could have done something else with that $221 million. In addition to that, I know that there's been some conversations about what's going on in LA, and they want to say that it's riots because they didn't want people to keep talking about, say, the Epstein files or whatever other drama was popping off between the president and his little friend. So they wanted to change the conversation to immigration because they feel like, well,
my bad, I've been watching the chat. I'm gonna pause a second and catch up on the chat, man. What's going on, y'all?
If they cared about making sure we were going to be fiscally responsible, they would tell the American people that it cost them $134 million to send the National Guard to LA for the quote-unquote riots that the governor didn't ask for, nor did the mayor of LA ask for. And they sent them over there, and they say that they care about our service members, yet they sent them and they were laying on the floor. They did not provide for food. So I don't know why we would believe that, number one, they want to fix this. They don't want to fix this, because the brokenness is a feature, not a flaw of the system, because it is beneficial to them when it comes to campaigning. If they can't stoke fear, then why are they going to say have anybody vote for them? Because that's what people are doing. They're voting out of fear. But Ms. Perryman, we know each other a little well, and I know you got a law degree. And it seems like we all need law degrees in here nowadays to understand the Constitution. So really briefly, I just want to make this point. There is a certain person that was afforded, say, due process. But let's say if, say, Donald Trump had been charged with all of these cases that he got charged with in 4 different jurisdictions, if he wasn't afforded due process, there could have been a possibility that he just would have been locked up and thrown somewhere, right?
Oh.
That would be a possibility.
And then maybe we wouldn't have a tariff war or anything else that we're dealing with, or all the other nonsense.
Hey, listen. I told you. Whoever her speechwriter is, she up there. Listen. Like, at least I'm trying to get my transitions right. But the transition game is there. If she dropped an album, I may listen to the first 45 seconds. 45 seconds for real. She got to be spitting some bars. That's enough time for, if you think about it in a rap song, 45 seconds is a lot of time to get someone. So, no disrespect. But the first 45 seconds gonna snap.
It's afforded due process, and regardless of the political opposition, Democrats, Republicans, and independents, I thought, believe that due process should be afforded to everybody, even him.
Due process is for everyone.
Okay, so the Fifth Amendment doesn't say that it's just...
Yeah, due process is for everyone. I'm gonna flip over something that... See, my camera, I need to adjust to my camera. I'm leaning all out the camera and stuff. My bad, y'all. My bad, y'all. In Texas, due process for possession of marijuana because the governor, good Governor Perry, I believe Governor Hot Wheels, as the congresswoman we just watched named, said, and this is something, again, I'm trying to, drop some new laws that are going into effect. So if you're in the great state of Texas, nobody messes with Texas, according to Big X. They about to ban marijuana. Senate Bill 3 bans the sale of all consumable hemp products that contain THC, and only consumable hemp products that will remain legal under this bill are products that will contain cannabinoid CBD or CBG. It's really a fight for the weed smoke. It's really a fight. It's like in certain states, Colorado, California, you can go, you can buy, you can get your license, you can have a good time. But now it feels like a more concerted hit on the hemp, weed, and THCA smokers. Because sometimes, sometimes you go to the shops to get their off-brand hemp products, but there is some danger in that. All right, there is danger in buying some of these products that are labeled hemp that are really weed, because some people aren't looking for weed. But then the criminalization of it is a little stronger. Now, the biggest thing, the governor hasn't signed this yet, right? It will criminalize hemp and marijuana there, but what are the penalties, right? Well, what's the felony, right? Because I know it's a felony. Right? Here, an offense for manufacturing, selling without a license. Provide a person who commits an offense if this person possesses hemp or manufacturing consumable hemp product without a license. Now, this says hemp. Now, I could have sworn this was marijuana. This wasn't the marijuana bill? Wait a minute now. Hold on. I could have sworn Senate Bill 3 was a marijuana bill. Let me double check it now. Texas marijuana ban. Wait. Hold on now. Yeah. Unless he bill, yeah, okay. Senate Bill 3. Right. So I'm not tripping. I had to check myself, right? So I'm going through the staff analysis, right? So essentially, the penalty in itself would be a third-degree felony for possession or selling any products that are there. Now, again, it's a fight that the marijuana companies are having, but it's also a fight in Texas, at least, for abortion clarity. Now, Texas was also one of those states where and sorry for the bad transition there overall. I'm trying to get smoother at this thing. I'm just not there yet. I got to maybe go to GPT and do like a script. Hey, here's what I'm going to talk about. Here's what I plan on doing. Help me flow and then keep talking points. But I appreciate y'all tapping in for this. I'm going to get to the chat in a second. I'm trying to get through this so I can get to the rest of the videos, and then we can do what we need to do, because this, I think, is kind of key to help people learn, like, hey, damn, they banned abortions in certain states like Texas, Florida, after a certain amount of weeks in other places. But now doctors, physicians, patients, and other people are in complicated situations based on their interpretation of what the law says. So they need clarity. They're asking the government to get clarity regarding that. So again, like I stated, Texas, Kentucky, and Tennessee have all passed laws that basically clarify the scope of the abortion ban. After the Roe v. Wade piece, 20 states basically came out and said, you know what, we're going to ban some type of abortion. But Senate Bill 31 maintains current prohibitions for elective abortions, including the private right of action. The bill conforms Texas abortion statutes to uniformly define the situation of when a medical emergency occurs by maintaining and clarifying protections against threats to the mother's life and threats to her major bodily functions. Senate Bill 31 codifies that a physician using reasonable medical judgment may intervene and provide timely medical care to a pregnant woman in a defined medical emergency. This bill would also protect women undergoing treatment for cancer and other diseases when the treatment may jeopardize the unborn child. Amends current law relating to exceptions to otherwise prohibited abortions based on the physician's reasonable medical judgment. Now, this is just, you end up seeing the statutes in itself. Each state does their staff analysis of the bill different, of the statutes different. Let me look at the camera. I'm not looking at the camera. I could be leaning all the way outside again. So to a point, it gets there, right? Of understanding exactly what's being amended. As you can see through the staff analysis, you go to capitol.texas.gov, look for Senate Bill, what was this? 31. In the 89th Senate, you will see this bill and be able to go through it for yourself as well if you happen to be tapped in from the state of Texas. Hey, user 835075. But it's a divisive issue. I'll say this, let me make it full screen and I'm going to go transition off to some other stuff. To be honest, when my wife and I were pregnant, because, we're pregnant together, right? I was worried about the abortion piece, the narrative, right? And a no knock to any woman, the safety is there first, right? Because their decision. However, after our child is born, I'm more worried about other things, like school, daycare, and I said, well, diapers. And it's not just my perspective. It's like, as a father, as a husband, as a provider, it's something I think of. And I think that other people in my circle who have the same conversations is saying, user 8375, hey, hi. Hey, appreciate you tapping in. I see it, man. Let me pay attention to the chat, right? But to the main point, there needs to be a deeper conversation about what happens after birth. Like what happens after we vote? What happens after we, have the child? Or have a situation where, okay, this person may not physically be able to have an abortion in the state. Do we legalize them going to another state to have one? Right? That's there. Let me get to the chat because I have a spammer in there, I believe. And I think I have some mods in here. And my mods, look, listen, y'all have free reign to kick their ass out of here, man. But I appreciate y'all tapping in. Let me get to it. What did he do? You guys don't see the high? Or maybe just me. Either way, come to Michigan, trees and trees. Mistake, Trump, listen to Billy Graham. I think you're right for disagree, player. Appreciated that, DD. True hemp, small weed is cool. Are you a farmer? No, I'm not, Joanne. Hemp is superior. Paper rope clothing. Mike is, yeah. Hemp is. But I think it's more the smokable hemp that they're really trying to get out of, because Texas is a good state for agriculture, so I don't think they would try to ban the agriculture piece. But there are farmers and agriculture folks who are impacted by this who want to change that too. They're killing the loophole in the new farm bill, so I heard. I'll look to it and see if that's true. Hemp was competing with tax money. That makes sense. Save man, woman, peace. Legalize it nationally. I believe it. Oompa Loompa. It's legal here in Colorado. Let me tell you how nice it is just to drive down the street. I believe you. I need to get to Colorado. Didi, I'm right there with you. Appreciate you tapping in, Didi. Terry, hey Terry. Thank you for tapping in. How's the weather down there? It's been raining all up and down the coast. I was in South Carolina and Georgia earlier. All rain all the way back down here to Florida, man. I hope it's good there. She got black privilege. ThinkPad, I appreciate you saying delete the account. Actually, I'm getting a lot of subs. Ump's in the house, man. How you doing? Appreciate you. Just get into the chat. I need to go golfing, man. I haven't been golfing in forever, man. I haven't seen you and Auntie in a minute, man. Me and Paul were just talking about, like, hey, man, we need to make some time. But, life be life, and it's hard, man. Even though y'all right around the corner, man, it's hard to life be life. You already know. I don't know how much it cost the last administration. They were flying them all over the country. Like, listen, Georgia was flying immigrants all over. Everybody. Yeah, everyone is a pastor. Everybody, once you get that anointing, you touch the hem of the Lord's garment, you could do what you want. Go be a theologian. Didi, I was out spending time Father's Day with the family, taking a quick break here. We can't play music on YouTube, so I'm gonna get some sounds from my man Campster down to play some interlude music in the back. Let's get into the chat. My apologies for taking so long to get to y'all. I appreciate everybody who's tapped in so far. If this is your first time here, I am the hip hop lobbyist. I'm a full-time lobbyist here in the state of Florida. They're actually, I checked last on the floor when I looked, because we had the longest legislative session. Hold on, I'm out the camera. Am I in the camera? I'm out the camera. We had the longest legislative session in Florida's history, and they were still on the floor actually about to vote on the budget, because they passed the budget Friday, and I told you I had projects that were in the budget. And from there, they had to wait 72 hours, which is tonight, to actually vote on it. So people have to debate, have a good conversation. I may tap in on that, see if they're still on the floor there. I know the House will be, but the Senate may be out. But either way, let me get back into some good old, let me find something. Give me a second. They say stalling is a good part of streaming, but I don't like stalling. I like to get right into it. You feel me? Something I'm gonna go into here, and since we were just in Texas, this could be interesting, because I know we were talking about it in Florida. Property tax relief. Now, this may get Governor DeSantis going, Tammy, because they were talking about property tax relief in the state of Florida. Here's kind of a problem to where we have a rising cost of homes, right, from the pandemic all the way through. And insurance between hurricanes is a lot, and property insurance. Because, houses value more between 2000. If you had a home built before 2000 or right around 2000 until now, you probably doubled your value for what it is, right? So now you're paying more in taxes. But for people who actually paid off their homes, the governors had said, you know what, hey, if you paid off your property, you shouldn't be paying any property taxes. Maybe just the insurance. So, give people back their money. Cool. That's great. In other areas, because Florida is more rural, a lot of people think Florida is just Miami, to be honest, in Orlando. There are a lot of other places. Jacksonville, Tallahassee, Pensacola, other wonderful beaches, Tampa, St. Pete, Naples, where my good friend Byron Donalds, I wouldn't say good friend, a homie, Byron Donalds is from as well, right? So altogether, it's very urban, rural mix in the state. But when we talk about property tax relief, it sounds great to people. But in certain rural communities, they've done a quick study to say, you know what, 98% of some rural communities' budgets, cities or counties, would be based on property taxes. So how can you say, okay, cool, we're going to eliminate property taxes for everyone here, and then really get to a point of saying, all right, cool, how will these local governments survive? And not just the big boy Democratic cities. These are the hunting and fishing rural communities across our state. And it's really a domino effect of saying, okay, if it happens in Texas, if it happens in Alabama, Georgia, Kentucky, wherever, there's a domino in the South of saying, okay, this may pass all the way through, right? It may not be the same exact law, but it'll be a variation that fits the makeup of the state of Florida, right? So like Didi's case, and he's in Memphis, there may be some laws in Tennessee that pass. Say, you know what? Someone in Florida may get wind of it and say, you know what? We kind of like that. Let's add a provision into it. What does our laws currently do? How can we make it all work? And then we make kind of an amendment or revision law here to say, okay, hey, we're going to copy the law to make it happen here, right? It happens in business, in environmental issues, everything else. But property taxes will be the next big thing, because a lot of local governments, your public schools, your police and firefighters will be there. And honestly, if Democrats were smart here, and I know the people will be like, you know what, damn, Phil, stop talking, just play the video. No, it's my channel, right? Make sure you like and subscribe. But to the point, if Republicans push less tax or property tax, right, relief, if Democrats are smart, they will label it as an attack on the police. Because in certain states, most states, I would assume, those property taxes pay for law enforcement and firefighter salaries. So if you're basically taking away the property taxes, yes, it sounds good, but you're defunding the police. Let's get into the video.
Well, welcome everybody. Is my mic on? Okay, let's try again. Now we're on. Okay. Yes.
Yeah,
all right.
Jennifer, they did.
Thank you all so much for being here today. As you can tell, this is a very popular on the invitation list came, and we have reserved these seats for those of you who were on the invitation list and who are residents of Robeson Ranch. Now, I'd like to welcome the governor, the speaker, and this amazing group of Texas legislators. They're in Denton County, Commissioner Precinct 4. So welcome. And I am Diane Edmondson. I am the commissioner.
I'm with you, Erica. To me, it was always, hold on.
I'm running for real.
Let me get some of the comments because she's building up her narrative, right? Erica, I agree with that. Even my wife was pregnant, it was her decision, you know what I'm saying? It's like, if it's a family, yes, if it came to that, because I think it is a woman's right to choose, right? That's my personal opinion because I think it's between you and God, respectfully, right? I've known friends that have done it. Had one, excuse me, it's not like a drug, or that too, but it's a fact that I think it's women's right, more than anything, right? Didn't want to overstep that. Didi, I did see your comment. I do agree with it as well. DeSantis Abbott 2028. Didi, you got to pick. You got between now and 2028. Didi, you're gonna pick a lot of damn people to run because you had me up there as vice president the other day,
I'm so
and I was supporting.
Here, you all can't vote for me. And I want to give a special shout out to all of my neighbors that are here, all of our Robeson Ranch residents. Raise your hands because we're so glad you're here. You love our governor, don't you? Everybody wanted to be here, Governor, for this momentous occasion. We're absolutely delighted that the governor chose this location for the signing of HB 9, Senate Bill 23, and Senate Bill 4. Anybody got any idea why he chose Robeson Ranch? There's a rumor going around that there are a lot of seniors that live here. I don't think it's really true. I don't see any seniors. Oh, well, okay, one. Anyway, we're so glad to have you here because you were especially kind to the seniors in this legislation. We kind of have a lot in common, Governor. When I first became a commissioner, it occurred to me that we didn't have a cap on what the seniors pay for county taxes. And we didn't have any kind of a homestead exemption. So in my first year, I championed those two things, and they passed. But I had it easier than you did. I only needed 3 votes. And I think you needed almost 100. Exactly. Exactly.
Eventually, he's one of 3.
Well, that's right. I was one of the 3. So anyway, this is a much, much bigger deal than what my deal was. And we're so happy because what you've done for seniors and those who are disabled and to the ordinary homeowner, we have increased that exemption to huge amounts. We've got our tax assessor collector here, and I know she knows how important this is going to be. So, Governor, we're so happy to welcome you here. And if you don't mind, I want to take just a second. We've got some other elected officials here that I'd like to recognize. Commissioner Brandon Gill. Commissioner. Hey, Brandon, there's already 3 or 4 people running. Jump in. Okay. I'm so sorry. It said C-O-M, and that was supposed to be C-O-N. Congressman Brandon Gill. And then our county judge, Andy Eads. Our tax assessor collector, Don Way.
They're going through a lot of nothing right now.
And not the only cowboy in the room, but our sheriff, Tracy Murphy.
Anyway, I'm going to feel forward. I'm going to get to the governor's comments because this is a lot of... here we go.
One Ranch. So y'all come on back anytime.
Great place to be, and there could be no better place to be here for the reason we're here today. One reason why we are here today is because of the leadership both of Lieutenant Governor Patrick as well as Speaker Dustin Burrows. And on this legislation in particular, the leadership of Senator Betancourt and State Representative Morgan Meyer. We're here today to talk about property taxes. Let me hear it. Do you think your property taxes are too high?
Yes. Everybody so say that, man.
And I'm going to sign 3 pieces of legislation that lower those taxes. 2 of them deal with your homestead exemption. As a kind of reminder, if you look at the valuation of your house, a homestead exemption is going to exempt part of that value from taxation. When I became governor, that homestead exemption was $15,000. As we gather today, that homestead exemption is $100,000. I'm going to sign a law that will increase that exemption to $140,000. So for the first $140,000 evaluation of your home, it will not be subject to the school district property taxes, which is the largest bulk of your property tax bill. And this is Senate Bill 4 by Senator Betancourt and by Representative Morgan Meyer. 16.
Oh, I'm going to switch to something else in a second. I got to.
All day.
That's right.
Your homestead exemption has now gone up to $140,000.
$140,000. That's a lot. We only have like 25,000 in the state of Florida.
Now, I know that many of you all are good at math. Some of you are better at reading. For those who concentrate on reading, if you go from where the homestead exemption was when I first became governor, $15,000, to now $140,000, that's almost a 1,000% increase. Now, the second bill goes into what Diane was talking about. Because we do love our seniors, and I wish some were with us here today. There's some of you are seniors, some of you identify as seniors. A senior is 65 and older. For those who are 65 and older or disabled, that property tax exemption goes up beyond $140,000. It goes all the way up to $200,000.
What? Yeah, I need a senior to move in with me.
Of your home, there's not going to be any school property tax that you have to pay. The reality is that the average Texan, meaning more than half of Texas seniors, are not going to pay a school property tax at all.
Wow.
After I sign this law.
Wow. Hey, Scott, I appreciate this. Hey, sis. Yeah, it's a big family, man. Big bipartisan family, man. We're big. We're bi. You know, remember. We're bipartisan. Not bisexual, you know what I'm saying? So that's some of us could be. But I speak for me. So I appreciate y'all tapping in for the stream tonight, man. Now I'm gonna stop this and go over. Hold on, gotta get to the right screen first.
Accomplish this session, as it concerns both the budget as well as taxes. When you add all the money together of what we're devoting to new money for property tax relief, that's $10 billion. For us to be able to maintain the property tax relief that we've provided you over the past 10 years, it requires an additional investment of $40 billion. Add those two together, and you know that we spent $50 billion this session on property tax relief. Let me show you how truly unprecedented that is. 25%, a quarter, of the Texas state budget is using money to return to you through tax cuts. No state in the history of America has devoted such a large percentage of their budget to tax relief in the United States of America.
DeSantis is not gonna like that. DeSantis not gonna like that. It's hope for Florida.
And as far as I'm concerned, we're not done yet. There you go. I think there's more that we should do. The state of Texas has 4 constitutional provisions that are spending limits for the state. cities and counties, they don't have those same spending limits. It's time the cities and counties have a spending limit just like the state of Texas does, so they cannot drive up your property taxes anymore. There's also another type of property tax. It's a property tax on businesses, but it's not on the real estate property. It's on the personal property of the businesses. It could be things like tables or chairs. It could be computers, it could be phones, whatever the case may be. That property, not the land, that would be a real estate tax. This is personal property, not non-real estate property. Anyway, for businesses, the first $2,500 of that is exempt right now.
I am directed to
Well,
inform the
that's
Senate
not very
that the House of
much.
Representatives has accepted
And so
the conference
we
committee
wanted to
report.
increase that by a lot. The bill I'm going to sign increases the business personal property tax exemption from $2,500 all the way to $125,000. This is particularly helpful to all the small businesses out there that will help them meet the cost of rising prices. And by the way, all of these bills are by Senator Betancourt and Representative Morgan-Meyer. This happens to be a House bill where Representative Morgan-Meyer from...
I'm going to stop it there. The tax relief sounds amazing, to be honest. And I don't knock it in certain states. I think it's needed, especially, when you own property. I think that's the biggest thing where Democrats, they forget that a bigger part of why people vote is based on what they own. And if you're talking to people, and I'm not saying you should only talk to people who own property, but when you're talking to people who don't have a buy-in on the future or their neighborhood, or like somebody said, get rid of HOAs. They don't care about that. The most they know that, damn, in certain neighborhoods, the average person who doesn't own, in certain neighborhoods, they won't allow Airbnb. But then certain people are like, damn, I bought this property. Now the HOA passed a rule that says I can't have it as Airbnb. Now they're sitting there upset, right? Maybe it could be a content house, right? And that's another thing I plan on doing is laws that impact streamers. Right, because I think that's something else, especially when you get into copyright laws and things of that nature. But one of my favorites is out there. Rand Paul was on MSNBC yesterday. I missed it, family time, Father's Day. I hope everybody on the stream is having a good Father's Day for what it is. Again, I'm gonna still tap into the chat. Let me tap the chat before I get into this, because I've been ignoring the chat today, and not on purpose. It's just one of those things. That's a man. That's a wow man. What are y'all talking about? Who's a man? You know what? I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this with y'all tonight, okay? I refuse. I need to fix my camera because my camera's crooked. And I've been leaning this way because the camera's like this. So when you see everything's level, just the camera's not, right? But y'all are wilding in the chat tonight. Because I'm not agreeing with what y'all saying. But when I went back to I'm just playing.
Of Kentucky. Senator Paul, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Unfortunately, I have to start with this horrific news out of Minnesota, this act of political violence, the assassination of a state lawmaker there and her husband, 2 others injured in the hospital recovering. Senator, what was your reaction to hearing the news?
I think nothing brings us together more than, mourning for somebody else who's in political life, Republican or Democrats. We come together about this. I was there at the shooting in 2017 when Steve Scalise almost died, just feet away from another young staffer that was shot just next to me. So I'm aware of this. I've been the victim of political violence. I had 6 ribs broken and part of my lung removed. So we know about this. We're very aware of it, but our hearts and prayers go out to the families.
Yeah, our hearts and prayers go out to the families as well. It's been 8 years since that attack that, of course, where Congressman Scalise was shot. Thank you for sharing that memory with us. I do want to turn now overseas to the Middle East. In fact, it's an active situation right now. It's our understanding that Iran is sending missiles striking Tel Aviv as we're having this conversation. You've warned President Trump not to get involved in the conflict between Israel.
Hold on 1 second. Y'all got to call my wife, see what she's at. I'm going to make this full screen so y'all at least get a better. Hold on, that's not the window. One of these things. Yep, that's it. Let me straighten this out so y'all at least get a better experience there. I'll be back. Let me make sure my wife is straight. And she's on the other side of the country. Damn, that's not, this looks horrible. Hold on, y'all. yeah, that looks better. That looks a little better. We'll get there. I'll straighten it out. Y'all stay tuned. Let me make sure my wife is straight. I'm gonna mute my mic. But I'll be back on. Actually, I could just fuck it. Why not just do this? Okay.
Israel and Iran, saying, quote, a war with Iran would make Iraq look like a skirmish. But have a look at what Senator Lindsey Graham argues should happen if Iran does not come to the negotiating table. He says, quote, if Iran refuses this offer of the United States, I strongly believe it is in America's national security interest to go all in to help Israel finish the job. How do you respond to Senator Graham's call to go all in and help Israel finish the job, Senator?
Well, his initial response was game on, and I don't consider war to be a game. The hundreds of thousands of people that potentially will now die on both sides. You know, for a couple thousand years, we've had this discussion over what is just war. Not only our civilization, but other civilizations have had this discussion. And one of the things that many people came to a conclusion was that preemptive or preventative war wasn't just. And so there is that. But there is also the idea that what happens to Iran, you imagine what happens in Iran now. Do they coalesce around their government, even though their government is unpopular? Does nationalism thrive? And you would think that they would probably be less likely to want to negotiate at this time, particularly when they may feel that negotiations were a ruse to put them at ease until the bombing happened. So I think it's going to be very hard to come out of this and have a negotiated settlement. I see more war and more carnage, and it's not the U.S.'s job to be involved in this war. Iraq was a mess. Afghanistan was a mess. And one of the things I like about President Trump is he has shown restraint. And so I think his instincts are to not be involved in this war, but there will be a lot of pressure from Lindsey Graham and others to get involved in this war. And I hope that his instincts will prevail.
All right, let's turn now to what we all witnessed here in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, on Saturday. A military parade celebrating the 250th birthday of the Army here in Washington yesterday. You expressed some doubts ahead of the parade. President Trump says the parade was to showcase the Army's military might, even to inspire a new generation to sign up for military service. Senator, what do you say about that argument? Could the parade have that benefit of encouraging people to sign up and enlist?
You know, I'm all for the president appearing and doing enlistment ceremonies at military bases. I've been with the president at Dover to receive home our dead soldiers, and so those who have been killed in action, and to mourn their loss. But I just never liked the idea of the parade, because I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and the only parades I can remember are Soviet parades for the most part, or North Korean parades. And the parades I remember from our history were different. You know, everybody remembers that famous scene of the soldier, you know, dipping the girl and kissing the girl in New York in a ticker tape parade. But we were rejoicing the end of war, and we were rejoicing our soldiers coming home. And that absolutely ought to be commemorated and discussed every year, Memorial Day, Veterans Day. But we never glorified weapons so much. And I know he means well. I don't think he means for any of this to be depicted in another fashion, but I'm just not a big fan. And then there is the cost. I mean, we're $2 trillion in the hole, and just an additional cost like this, I'm not for it.
I do want to get to the debt deficit momentarily, but first, let's talk about those ICE raids that have really dominated the week. We've seen them, anti-ICE raids really across the country. You're the chair of the Homeland Security Committee, which means you have oversight over DHS. I want to play some sound for you from Governor Gavin Newsom. Take a listen to what he had to say about those ICE raids.
I was in Oxnard, California yesterday. I met with a 12-year-old boy. Tears pouring down his face. His mom and dad snatched by agents. They were working the fields for over 20 years. He doesn't know where they are. He has no family in the United States. He's here alone, a sixth grader.
Senator, do you think the Trump deportation policy has gone too far?
You know, I live in a community, Bowling Green, Kentucky, where we have lots of first-generation immigrants. Many of my friends, many fellow physicians, they're new Americans. And I often say some of the best Americans just got here. That being said, that's lawful immigration. I don't think we can allow millions of people to come across the border. It just is transformative, but not in a good way. So I think we should, if anything, maybe expand lawful immigration, but we can't have illegal immigration. We can't have open borders. Now, how we tackle this is a difficult situation because we have California governors like Newsom and the mayor of Los Angeles who are resisting federal law. And if you go all the way back to the Civil War, one of the conclusions of the Civil War, and particularly the Civil Rights era, is that there are times when the federal government will step in if local officials are resisting the law. So when people are arrested for doing bad things, they're arrested for assault, if you don't check their status and you don't deport them after that, you're disobeying federal law. And I think the one thing that brings us together, conservative, Republican, Democrat, Independent, is I think most people want the people committing crime to be deported. And if it sticks to that, I think we'll be fine. When it extends to children and workers, even the president's backed off a little bit on this. He says now we're not going to deport agriculture, hotel workers, and others. And somebody on the internet this morning says, well, all you have to do is you need to change your job and be an agricultural worker.
Do you support those carve-outs, Senator? Do you support those carve-outs? The carve-outs for farmers, agricultural workers, hotel workers?
I'm a big advocate of the farm worker program and worker programs in general. Okay. I think he's talking about a carve-out for people who are not in the program. He's talking about people who are illegally doing that work.
Yeah.
I think that we should do something. I've been an advocate for a policy such that we can accept more workers. And I've always thought the trade-off would be you don't get citizenship. Everybody.
Is this what American people voted for? Trump supporters, MAGA supporters in the chat right now, tell me this. Because Rand Paul is one of those voters he's one of those ones you're going to need in the Senate now. 53-47. You don't have the majority. You got both chambers now, respectfully, as a Democrat, even though I'm in the middle. How you feel about this? Because when Trump came down the elevator, he told you about the wall back in 2016. And we ain't built all the wall yet. We talking about the Golden Dome. We're going to get there, right? However, let me get some water. I need some water. Should there be carve-outs for undocumented workers, illegal immigrants who are workers on farmers and in the hospitality industry? Should they be able to get a waiver? And say, hey, because like he said, I didn't hear about this. Remember, I didn't spend a weekend in politics. I spent a weekend with my family. Enjoyed it. Wait on my wife to, get situated, get a hotel and all the other good stuff. However, it gets to a point of saying, is this what the American people voted for? Because this is why, even for the No Kings protest, I said, listen, Democrats, sorry, because there was Democrats out there. Black folks, it's not our fight. This is white on white crime. Respectfully, right? Because you had the liberals out there protesting No Kings as if King Henry's coming back from England, dumping the tea in the damn Boston Harbor again, right? Let's be real. But now we're to a point of, back to business. The king's over. The king weekend's over. Not Dr. King, the white folks king. Sorry, the liberals king. But now we're at a point of saying, okay, cool. We're back to the main conversation, illegal immigration. Hey, ICE deporting everybody on their job, deporting people on their kids' kindergarten graduation. We understand y'all got a job to do. We got a job to do too. And we've been here illegally, and guess what? The farmer done gave $10, $5, $50 million to Trump too. And hey, bro, I didn't know this was part of the game. I ain't even no real ID. We have no ID. I'm paying these boys in cash. Okay? Because I got a limit to what I can give you off the FEC report. Because if I give you 5,400, I know that 2,700 you can use in your primary, 2,700 you can use in your general. But guess what? You got the big PAC money, super PAC, 100,000, 200,000, 5 million. Let's go. I'll drop it there. Whatever you need, Big Trump. But guess what? Keep them ICE agents off my property, please. I got to get these tomatoes, these oranges. And I'm not trying to be whatever. I'm trying to be real because that's what they're saying is there. I need the people working my hotels to make it. I got to flip these rooms over by 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock because I got people landing at 2:30. And they're not checking out till 12. So you got a small window of people to clean these rooms. Clean the bathroom, get the nut stains out the sheets, flip the room over, find the cigarettes, find the condoms, find the weed that left in the room, find everything. Oh, lost and found jewelry, watch, iPad. Make sure it gets to the lost and found when they call for it. 2.5 hours. And half of them may not speak English. And now we at a point of saying, is this what you voted for, Republicans? Is this the America? Is this making America great again? Because now we're back to the basics. We're back on saying, hey, there's certain exemptions. I'm going to go leave this construction field. And the agriculture business is about to be booming. Listen, banana, it's about to be Trader Joe prices on all kind of agriculture. Oranges, bananas, 10 cents. Because they're going to be pushing them out like they got pesticides in them things. But let's get back to Rand Paul.
Freddie's always said, "Oh,
and the rest. I'm being for real.
Citizenship.
Is this what you voted for?
Get citizenship.
My Republican friends, is this what we voted for?
Your deportation. I think actually many people who are here now who are working would probably accept the trade-off.
You have been one of the most outspoken Republican critics of President Trump's tax and spend bill, what he has called the big, beautiful bill. You have said it raises the debt ceiling by far too much. Trump called you, quote, the toughest vote in the history of the U.S. Senate. Senator, let me ask you, as of today, are you a yes on this bill or a no?
Well, I take that as a compliment, and I talked to the president last evening after the parade, and we're trying to get to a better place in our conversations, and I've let him know that I'm not an absolute no. I can be a yes. I like the tax cuts. I actually agree with Art Laffer and the supply siders that
James,
a lot of times we cut rates, we actually get more revenue.
100 likes, yeah, we got that,
with the tax cuts. I think there should be more spending cuts. But if they want my vote, they'll have to negotiate because I don't want to vote to raise the debt ceiling $5 trillion. You know, Congress is awful with money, and so you should give them a more restricted credit line, not an expansive one. Yes, the debt ceiling has to go up, but what I've said is it ought to go up 3 months at a time, and then we should have a renewed debate about the debt. We shouldn't put it up $5 trillion and wait 2 years, go through another election cycle and be almost towards the end of the Trump administration and say, oh, whoops, we have added a bunch of debt. We should have done better. I think we should keep talking about it.
Senator, very quickly, I have 2 more questions and 1 minute left. What's it going to take to get you to a yes specifically, very quickly?
Separate out the debt ceiling and have a separate vote on it. And I won't be the deciding vote on this. Is this what I tell my supporters? I will be, if I am the deciding vote, they'll negotiate. If I'm not, they won't. So far, they've been, sending their attack dogs after me. And that's not a great persuasion technique, but I will negotiate if they come to me, but they have to be willing to negotiate on the debt ceiling because I'm conservative and I'm not going to, no longer be conservative just because the president wants me to vote for something.
All right, Senator, very quickly, let me get your reaction to Senator Alex Padilla, who interrupted a press conference that was being held by DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. He was handcuffed, wrestled to the ground.
Now, I've seen that. We broke that down with Fiji the other night, last week, right? And to be real with y'all, my Democrats out there, Senator Padilla showed up at the press conference and started acting a fool before the press conference even started. He didn't identify himself. He wasn't even wearing a suit. He was wearing like a members jacket, members only jacket, with no kind of seal on it that I saw. And I said, we watched that film plenty of times because I think, and I haven't looked at it, the guard that pushed him out, he had to be at least a left guard in college. And we listen, you can go to the stream, the previous stream, you can look at our breakdown, me and Fiji the Great, as we went through that. He got blocked the hell up out of there. So I don't have any qualms with Republicans attacking him because it was performative. Because you know good and damn well, as an elected senator of a whole, second largest state in the country, you can show up early enough contact people and show up and have this whole conversation before the press conference even happened. That's how you got to realize what performative is and what action is. Because action is like, you know what? I'm going to stand here with you and we're going to talk about your piece. I'm going to say my piece. And we're going to collectively address it together because there is a safety for law enforcement. There's a safety for the rioters, anti-ICE rioters and protesters. Or sorry, not the rioters, the protesters, right? People who were not throwing the bricks in the buildings and all other stuff and shooting fireworks at the police. The people who are actually out there saying, hey, we don't agree with this because my granddaddy came here illegally and I got friends illegally, and guess what? I support them. But to the main point, let's finish up with Rand Paul.
The House Speaker says he should be censured. Do you agree? Should he be censured for that?
You know, I don't like the images of him on the ground and being handcuffed, but also didn't like the images of moms at school board meetings being handcuffed. I didn't like the images of peaceful January 6 protesters or people assembled there being taken to the ground in airports and handcuffed. So that I don't like. But at the same time, the other side to it is, can you rush a stage? Can you rush into a press conference? And I think they didn't. I think they honestly didn't recognize him. He rushed the stage. There was sort of a physical tussle. I think it could have ended with that without the handcuffs. But also, I don't think there's a complete get out of jail free, that there's no repercussions for rushing the stage and there's no criticism for rushing the stage. So I think it's a complicated story, and I think we can do a better job. But I'm not about to say it's all on one side or the other.
So you wouldn't be for censoring him? You're a no on censoring him, Senator?
No. I'm not for censoring him.
Okay.
I think that's crazy. I'm not for that at all. So,
see, I like Rand Paul for real. I think y'all may call me a moderate. I think I'm more moderate for real. Maybe a centrist. I think Rand Paul is more like the average, everyday. Okay, these people elected me for a reason. Let me just do the job, right? I'm not going to be with everything the Republicans say. I'm not going to be with anything or everything the Democrats say. But I'll at least be in the middle for what helps the average, everyday American. And that's kind of quietly why we started this channel. Let me fix my man's eyes. He just look like he got bad eyes right there. All right. That's why I kind of started the channel, to at least share my piece as a professional lobbyist, 15 years in the process, doing what I've done professionally, which has had success in the legislative process, and say, you know what? I realize that half the people out here don't understand that half these people are friends. Half the people get along. And then you have an unfortunate situation like what happened in Minnesota this week, where a state senator and her husband were killed by a rogue vigilante, domestic terrorist, over politics. It should never be that serious. I can understand the frustration if you're on the phone for hours waiting to talk to somebody about your grandfather, your parents, or your medical situations or child support or whatever. I can completely get that. But it should never get to a point of personally attacking someone, because that's the thing. It's like you draw the line in politics. Now, in the 1800s, 1700s, yes, it would slap you in the face. We're going to do it, take 10 steps to you. Hey, you better shoot first, right? We passed that stage. And that's why when the Luigi stuff happens and everything else, it's kind of like, wait a minute, we're not there for real. Now, the Luigi thing is different because it's medical insurance, but at least for the electeds, when you understand how the process works, even though she was the Speaker of the House, it was a fact of like, you know what? You can be in control and still not have any control. So you're mad at the wrong thing. You took this lady's life and her husband for no reason. And it's sad. It's unfortunate, to be honest. And something I wanted to tackle and address, I think I can really put more thought into it deeper as more stuff. I think they caught the guy, but it's just unfortunate because I hate when people who aren't in any of this, in this arena, take it to matters of violence for no reason. To be honest, because that lady's life wasn't worth what it was. Let's go on to Sean Hannity here. He had about 30 minutes ago released this video. Again, I haven't checked in with any of the news. So I'm catching up like y'all. So if you've seen some of this, it is what it is. But if you're here with your boy, please make sure you like and subscribe. Like I was saying earlier, got a little brain fart there. Started this channel a couple years ago, wasn't really active. Posted some stuff if it's the first time here, at least telling. Last June, July during the debates. I didn't support Biden after that debate. I'm a Democrat for what it is. And I actually reached out to my friends in the Biden and Kamala Harris White House to say, hey, my son needs to roll eggs on Easter for the White House lawn for Easter. Let's make this happen before y'all get up out of here, because there's quite a good chance y'all ain't coming back. And that was in October before that April election, and that was October before that June debate or July debate last year. They said, you know what, Biden just ain't got it together no more. Then I ended up posting after the Kamala Harris debate some stuff in the narrative around black men voting against Kamala Harris for Donald Trump. And I went and found 200,000 men in North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida that were voting for Kamala Harris. New voters. Because black men were voting at a higher rate than what the narrative that was being told by the main culture vultures and poverty pimps in the black culture, Roland Martin and company, right? However, I started posting more, started streaming more, and I've grown this channel from 346 subs at the beginning of April to over 3,500 this morning when I checked. And it's been a great ride. So we've had great people like Terry, Dee, my man Feeds the Great, always hopping on the show. Johnny Five, I haven't seen if he's been in the chat today, and some others. And I haven't touched any Diddy stuff in a while. I may do some Diddy after this, but I want to get through the politics for what it is. Handing the gold, I see what you're saying. James, I appreciate you tapping in. Terry, you did say something about the HOA earlier, about 40 years. I think you said you've been with the HOA, and a lot of people just jumping on the boards. You know, I'm one of those guys too. We got our home. I'm like, you know what? I want to be at least a part of the HOA and some part of being involved, but I don't want to put fines on people's yards. My grass currently hasn't been cut in 2 or 3 weeks. I haven't really been home that much, right? But it's to a main point of saying, you know what, cool. Let's at least keep the property value high or sustainable for everyone here by having like a level playing field. The one thing I don't like, though, respectfully, is in these new developments, these new builds, there's not even a mailbox on the homes anymore, man. All right, so let's get there. Well, I'm also going to straighten out my camera. And I'll say I'm losing some folks, but guess what? I guess I'm taking too long. It's okay. The real stay.
Air campaign, it has been a massive success. According to multiple reports, the mullahs of Iran are now begging for new negotiations. One report, not confirmed, has a supreme leader negotiating asylum, possibly with Putin and Russia. Almost all of the top military commanders, they are now dead. Their top nuclear scientists, they're also dead. Their ability to fire ballistic missiles, as you just heard from Trey Yangst, that is diminishing by the hour. Their weaponry slowly being depleted and degraded. Their nuclear aspirations, they are quickly coming to an end, which is good for mankind. As President Trump has emphasized over and over and over again, and he tried hard. He fought hard for peace. Iran cannot, in the end, have a nuclear weapon, period, end of sentence. Take a look.
I want to see no nuclear weapon in Iran, and we're well on our way to making sure that happens.
Now, that would be the Trump doctrine. I fully, completely support this doctrine. As the president wrote on Truth Social, America first means many great things, including the fact that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Make America great again. The president also made one other point very clear. If we are attacked in any way, shape, or form by Iran, the full strength and might of the U.S. Armed Forces will come down on you at levels never seen before. In the meantime, it appears that Israel's air campaign, now with full air superiority, they own the Iranian skies, achieved in just 4 days, will only be ramping up at this point. They own the skies. They have all the leverage. But let's be clear. This conflict, any conflict, is not without risk. It is not without hardship. It is not without suffering. Also, part of the Trump doctrine is no more forever wars. I fully agree with that also. With Israel owning the air over the entire country of Iran, the country now is suspect. They're going to lose their nuclear program. That is pretty abundantly clear tonight. But they could also lose their electric grid, which is gas-driven. That could be taken out just as quickly. All their refineries, which is their entire economy, can also be taken out. And without a protracted war or boots on the ground, doesn't make it risk-free. Everything has risk. However, the president is correct. The greater risk would be to do nothing. in the face of a clear and present danger. The world cannot experience another Holocaust. Iran has proven over and over again, convert or die, death to Israel, death to America. And as the president repeats over and over again, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Just noticed how Israel hits military targets. And look at what the Iranians are doing. They are terrorizing heavy populated civilian areas like Tel Aviv. Imagine the region with a nuclear-armed Iran, the #1 state sponsor of terror, pledging to wipe Israel and the U.S. off the map.
Sean Hannity hasn't even taken a real breath for real in like 3 minutes, if we're being for real. I see what you're saying. Like, I'm not a huge Hannity fan. I don't hate him. I just think he's biased of the shit for what it is. Never liked the way he covered Obama. Everything was negative. Everything was just fear tactic. It's the same thing Democrats on now. Just fear tactic, fear tactic, fear tactic. And that's like and I guess it makes sense. Like the seesaw in the playground. That you hey, I'm on one side. You go, hey, you're up now, I'm down. Oh, hey, we're up now. That's all this shit is. It's politics, right? Democrats are down. So, we got fear tactics. We got to send our people until we get up top, and then it gets to a point of saying, it gets me to another video I'm going to go next, where it's like, you know what? You have power, you can't even do anything, right? Because now, even the Republicans, it's like the biggest power we have is saying, okay, how involved are we going to get in this war in Israel and Iran?
Fighting proxy war after proxy war after proxy war. I brought this up last week. Ask yourself how many rockets, if they were fired into our country by the #1 sponsor of terror and they were threatening to wipe us off the map, how many rockets would it take before every American demanded a military response from their government? Israel now for decades has been the target of tens, not hundreds of thousands of rocket attacks. Now the ballistic missiles, they're getting more powerful than ever. 2,000 pounds, and the Iranians, according to reports, they want 4,000-pound ballistic missiles. That can cause a lot of damage in a city like Tel Aviv. I've been there. What would you want a U.S. president to do? And that is exactly what Israel is facing. Iran wanted to wipe the world's only Jewish state off the map, and with each passing day, the Islamic Republic was getting closer and closer to achieving that goal. During both the Obama and Biden years, Iran was able to do pretty much whatever they wanted. I blame both of them for enriching the uraniums. I blame both of them, especially Biden, turning a blind eye to the sanctions that were bankrupting him that Donald Trump had put in place. They stockpiled thousands of ballistic missiles. They were able to use that money to foment terror all over the region and build out their nuclear program and enrich uranium at a far more rapid pace. They're armed. They have armed their proxies to the teeth, all while declaring, what they want, what their stated goal is. And while Israel has neutralized Iran's top proxies, the nuclear program, the country's missile production capabilities, they were picking up speed. In about a month, a nuclear holocaust would have been a real possibility. That is not a risk that any country should ever have to face. Unfortunately, the so-called party of compassion doesn't seem to care. In fact, the base of the Democratic Party, others with extreme views, they seem perfectly okay with the virulent anti-Semitism in the halls of Congress, on college campuses, and worldwide. And, from the river to the sea, how often have we heard that?
Their health care and their health care costs are
they wouldn't mind if it did happen. In fact, tonight, left-wing protesters in New York City.
Hannity's been rolling for like 5 minutes hard, bruh. You can't even get a word in. Not even a breath. It's a lot. Like this other man here.
We'll argue
Just
on that
transition
one.
to be.
Senator Sanders. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Mr. Besson, for being here.
For every Sean Hannity, there's at least 5 Bernie Sanders for real. And Bernie, to me, honestly needs to retire. I think he'd be a better activist than he is a senator, to be honest. Because in this video, I think we'll actually see the topsy-turvy, right? The seesaw. On why Democrats and Republicans play the games that they play with you, the American people. And again, I'm not just saying that it's like, oh, okay, this is some guy talking. I'm a lobbyist for what it is, professionally, so I have an opinion. And what I see is Bernie is beating a dead horse at this point. And because he has people in a box caring about the issues that he's so hot about, because he cares about the American people and the youth and everything else, because he has them in the same box, no bullshit, that Hannity has a lot of Republicans in. Because on the same breath that people say Hannity's the GOAT, people are saying Bernie's the GOAT. Because he's real, he's the only one fighting the system. But the reality is both of them have everybody in the box. What happens when you break the box?
Help me out here. My understanding is the Trump administration has, I think, 13 billionaires in office right now, leading government agencies. Is that about right, do you think?
I have no idea, Senator.
I think that's what the number is. Do you think it's a coincidence, given the large number of billionaires in the Trump administration, that this particular piece of legislation would provide $235 billion in tax breaks to the top 0.2% by expanding the exemptions in the estate tax?
Senator, I will tell you that when the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act passed, my tax rate went up.
Well, I don't know your exact situation, but I can tell you. Tell me about how many people do you think are in the top 0.2%?
Sorry?
Number of people in the top 0.2% who would benefit from this particular $235 billion tax break.
Well, the top, I know the top 10% is right. now paying 7%.
That's not the question. My question is, why do you think at a time of unprecedented income and wealth inequality, when people like yourself economically have never, ever had it so good, why do you think it's a good idea to cut Medicaid for low-income and working-class people by $700 billion to give $235 billion in tax breaks to the very, very, very richest people in this country, perhaps a few hundred families? Please justify that and tell me about that.
Well, Senator, I don't know, but the Democrats had the trifecta, and there was no tax increase or wealth tax on billionaires. You choose.
I'm not talking about a tax.
You chose not
Mr.
to do
Besson,
that,
I am not talking about a.
You hear an old man upset, he getting pushed out of his box. Pause. Let me go back, because I went back for Jasmine Crockett when Jasmine Crockett was preaching earlier, right? Let's go back to the setup. Because if you pay attention, just like my man Byron Donalds earlier, when you ask a question and they give you an answer that you know makes you uncomfortable, you sit here like, wait a minute, that's not the fucking question I asked. And that's why Bernie needs to go. Because the part of this isn't politics, this is activism. Activists don't belong in politics. You know why? Because they just take what they put you in this box of bullshit and they spin the narrative like a damn washing machine. And if you realize it, check it out realistically. I'm going to tell you this. I didn't get into politics until Obama was elected, but I seen Bernie run. I seen Bernie talk. I seen Bernie have the same narrative since 2007. And he's been elected as a senator since 2007, saying the same thing in a box about Medicare, Social Security, and billionaires. He ain't changed a damn thing yet, has he? How much longer does it take? You mean to tell me, will he have to die in office in order to make a change? Will they have to make the Bernie Sanders act to remember him and just care about living wages then? Because this is the same old senile man for 20 damn years, damn near. They told you about a living wage, but hasn't put a dollar figure on the amount yet. Hello, somebody. I'm just trying to be real. Just how we have a minimum wage, and they talk about living wage, they talk about the billionaires and the millionaires. Think about this, Bernie, and this is for you, Bernie, not Senator. Do you think the average person will be able to go get $3,500 out of their bank account right now or $7,000 out of their bank account right now to get to your campaign? No. I'm going to ask my chat. When you're talking about the millionaires and the billionaires, they're the same people that can at least cut you a check for $3,500, $7,000, or at least whatever you needed for your primary in general is there. You're not speaking to the average everyday person and go on and speak to the average everyday person to get your campaign contributions. You're not. You're going to people that have money, have wealth, have the millions and maybe the billions to help support you. So let's cut the bullshit, to be honest. That's all I'm saying. Because when they get you out the box with the narrative here, Senator, you get out of the bullshit because you're like, wait, that's not what I'm talking about. Because you have a talking point that you need to make for your people in your base, and guess what? The Republicans know the game by now. Because they know that if they get you outside of your box, you're going to be uncomfortable.
A few hundred families. Please justify that and tell me about that.
Well, Senator, I don't know, but the Democrats had the trifecta, and there was no tax increase or wealth tax on billionaires. You choose.
I'm not talking about a tax.
You chose not
Mr.
to.
Besson, I am not talking about a wealth tax. Explain. A few hundred of the wealthiest families in this country, $235 billion tax break. Explain to the American people why you think that's a great idea.
I think that this will increase small businesses substantially. That most small businesses, they are...
Has zero to do, come on, you're smarter than that. This is the top 0.2%. This is not a mom and pop store. These are multi-billionaires, and the savings go to their kids after they pass away. This is nothing more than a gift.
Where's your wealth going after you pass away, Senator Sanders? I'm just saying, I want to pass down what's in mine to my son. If we have future kids, I want to pass it down. I'm not saying it's right and wrong. Why they got to give it all up, man? Because sometimes some people don't have shit to give besides their Bible. Some people have nothing but wealth to give and whatever. I completely get it, but it's this war. To where it's like, you know what, damn, I'm driving a bus and I see somebody driving a Range Rover and I hate this motherfucker because they made it. I don't agree with those fear tactics either, because I want my business to be successful. I want my business to grow. I want my YouTube channel to grow. So it can grow my businesses. What they say, rising tide raises all the ships. That's what we're trying to do here. So it gets to a point of saying, by the time I get there, do I want to pay like I'm a homeowner now? I don't want to pay for extra property. I care about property taxes and shit now. Extra half a penny cent sales tax for some building or for some teacher salaries? I think not. I'm gonna get it out of my property taxes. But you're talking about some issues about millionaires and billionaires for 20 plus years, damn near. Right? People making new money, new ways. What's my band? Mr. Beast? That everybody trying to be like? He's a new billionaire. To me, he's not the problem. So you're trying to have a class warfare of people on how much they've earned throughout life, which I get. But it's like, bro, that's not going to make me go get out my bed and go vote because of the damn billionaire. Because we got billionaires on our side too. Morgan & Morgan, George Soros, they got names they throw out. We have billionaires on the Democratic side too. Oh, you're independent. Guess what? You have billionaires that are supporting you too. So that's the part where it's like, damn, bro, we're all doing the same thing. We all want to do what we can here for the time that God's given us here on earth to say, hey, where we at with the next steps? Hold on.
The billionaires in this country.
Well, sir, that's just not correct, because the top 10% paid a bigger share of taxes after TCJA.
I'm talking about one provision in this. I don't want to argue with you about taxes in general. One provision, few hundred families, $235 billion in tax breaks. You can't justify that because morally it is totally unjustifiable. Let me ask you another question. If you guys want to cut $1 trillion in Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act, the estimate from CBO, I believe, is that over 15 million people lose their health insurance. Yale University and the University of Pennsylvania estimated that when you throw that many low-income and working-class people off of health care, Some 50,000 people a year will die. Tell me why you think it's a good idea to give tax breaks to billionaires and allow 50,000 low-income and working-class people.
Come on, man. Like, let's be for real, man. I know my Republican friends didn't vote for it. I'm going to close that poll in a second. Ooh. Am I tripping? Did the people of Vermont elect Bernie Sanders to ask these loaded-ass questions? Here's the study. Here's what they say. Why would you justify this for the next? And it's like, bruh, it's always, it's not just him. But we all know Bernie. If I go get Joe Schmo from Represent Idaho, I'll be like, who is this guy? Y'all just leave the channel by now. But I know it's okay. It's Bernie, right? But Bernie needs to go too, because it's like, bruh, this represents the faction of America that needs to let the fucking power go. That's what this really is. You can't tell me there's not a young independent Republican Democrat in Vermont that wouldn't be able to represent the state better and be effective and not just have talking points and rallies about nonsense. Because the same lily white liberals that they're going to go get at Bernie's rallies with AOC are the same ones that's not coming out to vote when they don't get their way. They're the ones that saying, and to the point, they're the ones that will honestly say, I love the environment and I love a woman's right to choose over the current state of kids who can't read in their neighborhood schools. I saw a video of the No Kings protests. It's like, damn, these lily white liberals showed up to talk about no kings. Cool. How many of y'all will show up in the neighborhood to teach kids how to read? Spend 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour with a child a week or a month or a year. Would you put that same energy talking about a king? Like, what Dr. King, that was in January, baby. What are we talking about? Oh, you think Donald Trump is a king because you didn't get your way? What are we talking about? Play the game. You realize they don't even have the Senate. They barely got the House. They can barely pass anything. Everything is executive order right now. In talking points. They can't even get the public money for charter schools and private schools with St. Isidora because Coney Barrett excused herself from the vote. And you talk about a No Kings protest led by this guy who needs to let the damn power go. We're in a cuckold of people who would rather die in office and die with these issues rather than solving the issues for the American people. Joe Biden was one of them motherfuckers. Trump damn near one of them motherfuckers. Bernie one of them. And I'm not saying we need more AOCs. Even though Max Frost shared my post, I'm not saying we need more Max Frost. We need a good balance. We need a good balance of some war vets, some people in business, some people say, hey, how the fuck did I get here? I'm here now. Okay, cool. And people who just don't want to be in front of the camera say, hey, how can we deliver for the American people? Because I do get the fact of, okay, cool. You're making cuts, you're making this. But a lot of these issues that even Bernie Sanders is talking about, when they had leadership going into the 2010 midterms, y'all didn't do anything about it. When you got the House and the Senate back or whatever it is, any kind of leadership that the Republicans have now, you didn't do anything about it. So you just revert back to the old talking points because when it was Biden, it wasn't an issue. We're going to fix this. So the Republicans did the same shit y'all do. The irrelevant point bullshit questions towards the people to say, hey, at least I'm fighting for you. Because when I asked him a question, what they would do, he couldn't answer. Please, man, if anything, we need to retire Bernie. The jig is up, man.
To die unnecessarily?
Senator, first of all, that's overstated by 5.1 million. That that is not attributed to this bill. It is simply
It's a combination. That's true.
No. You all had a scheduled expiration of Obamacare subsidies, and you did not extend that when you were in charge. 5.1 million, 1.4 million illegal aliens on Medicaid.
All right,
and there are work requirements. And our goal is to get more money to children and mothers.
Really? Your goal is to get more money to children, and working people. Really? Come on. Do you know how many people, and I was surprised to hear this, I don't know if you know it or not, how many people lose their jobs every year, quit, get fired or whatever? Do you have any idea?
Well, there's something called the quits rate, and so when the job market is strong, more people quit.
But yeah, I was surprised that I just researched this. I don't know. Do you happen to know?
I don't know the number.
I was surprised. Would it be shocking to you? It was to me. 20 million people leave their jobs a year. Doesn't shock you, right? It's a big labor force, right? So some guy leaves the job, maybe they move, maybe something happens in their lives, right? We have a lot of transition in the labor market, correct?
Maybe they get a better job.
Right, exactly. Maybe they do. Or maybe they have to stay home, their wife gets sick, whatever, we don't know. But 20 million people lose their jobs in a given year, leave their jobs in a given year.
Thanks very much.
Are those people lazy? What happens when I leave my job and maybe I have to move to another state to take care of my ill mother? And I desperately need Medicaid. Am I too lazy now to be able to get Medicaid?
I think that's a mischaracterization of the work requirement.
Really? Well, I'm not quite so sure it is.
I'm going to get to this next Bernie video and some other stuff to really show what the game is, right?
For being with me. In these dangerous, crazy, and rapidly moving times, I want to say a few words as to where I think we are right now and how we best go forward if we are to defeat oligarchy, authoritarianism, and horrific attacks against low-income and working-class Americans throughout our country.
You ever realize this? And here's the breakdown, especially for Bernie, right? This disconnect the Democrats have and Bernie independent, whatever, right? The factual piece is, why are you using all the words from the thesaurus? The authoritarianism, like people, some people may not feel that. Some people do, some people don't. I feel it's more the process. Trump's doing what Trump said he was going to do, and guess what? He's running into the brick wall of politics because he had Elon to deal with. Now he's got Rand Paul to deal with. Now he's got a budget bill that he's going to pass through and make commercials for that. Guess what? Doesn't even have the votes. And Bernie, you're not voting for it. Cool, but you're not also offering anything to fix the shit that you've been talking about the past 20 years. Respectfully, right? So again, this old man needs to go. But I hate the scare tactic part of like, this is how we got to start the conversation. It's never anything good, never anything to say, you know what? Here are 5 good things we did this week for y'all. Here's what we did for, hold on, hit my mic. Here's what we did for seniors. Here's what we did for kids in impoverished areas. Here's what we did for kids in prison. Because they got incarcerated too young, and we need to make sure they can at least read if they ever come out of prison. You know, we need to do something. There's never that. It's always fear and hate in these untroubling times. You're the main ones who help make it untroubling, my brother. Sanders. Respectfully. That's my wife. We made it full screen. Hold on. Actually, we did this earlier. We already know what to do. There we go.
Let us be clear. We are living under an oligarchic form of society which has created more income and wealth inequality than at any time in our history. And that oligarchic form of society created a corrupt campaign finance system that allows billionaires to make unlimited amounts of campaign contributions. Trump won the election with $270 million in support from Elon Musk, the wealthiest guy on earth. The result of that enormous campaign contribution was that Musk was given the most important job in government and the opportunity to decimate government agency after government agency. Because of Musk's chainsaw approach, we have seen massive layoffs in the National Institute of Health,
the Center for Disease Control, the Department of Education, the Department of Health and Human Services, and many more. USAID, which provides life and death support to the poorest people on earth, has been virtually eliminated, and as a result, millions will die. Further, Musk has proposed the elimination of 83,000 jobs at the Veterans Administration, which will result in deteriorating health care for the men and women who put their lives on the line to defend us. He has also cut thousands of jobs at the Social Security Administration, an agency which is already understaffed. And now, as I hope all of you know, Trump and the Republicans are working on a massive budget reconciliation bill, or Trump's big, beautiful bill. If you can believe it, and I know it is really hard to believe, that at a time of massive income and wealth inequality, this legislation provides a $645 billion tax break to the top 1%, at a time when these guys already own more wealth than the bottom 93% of Americans. This bill would also provide a $420 billion tax break to large corporations that are stashing their profits in offshore tax havens like the Cayman Islands. And by the way, this particular tax break makes it easier for these companies to invest in robots and artificial intelligence, and as a result, throw millions of workers out on the streets. And now, how does Trump and the Republicans pay for these huge tax breaks for the wealthy and large corporations? Well, at a time when over 85 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured, when our current healthcare system is already broken, this bill slashes Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act by more than $1 trillion. The Congressional Budget Office has estimated that this bill would eliminate health care for 16 million Americans. And a recent study from Yale University and the University of Pennsylvania concludes that when you throw 16 million low-income and working-class people off of the health care they have, it will result in 50,000 unnecessary deaths every single year. Further, this bill makes massive cuts to nutrition, education, and other programs that working families depend upon for their survival.
Honestly, Bernie, it's like, I think you're holding on to this position for your survival, my boy. Respect me, Senator. Oh, you can see it in the face. He looked like, bro, I get it. It's time to pass the torch. It's time to pass the torch. Because, case in point, I'm going to go to this. I talked about this earlier, right? And I think it's, let me just make sure it lines up right. Hold on, yeah, there we go. There's never a conversation about what's good in politics, right? I'm going back to some of the statutes, these are new laws that dropped. Trying to come up with a new section. And what I'm thinking of, honestly, with the show, and let me know in the chat, right? What I'm thinking of is like we have a segment, we spend maybe 5-10 minutes on the actual statutes and staff analysis, right? Then we go back into it. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, show format wise. We'll get there, right? But to me, everything you're saying, Bernie, about the child piece and everything, it's like, damn, they're attacking us. But what I'm showing you here is the new law that Governor DeSantis signed in the state of Florida. And this isn't nationwide, but this is an example for me, right? Because I do understand the attacks on Republicans from Democrats. I do understand the attacks on Republicans, the Democrats, Republicans, the whole piece that's there. But when we're talking about bipartisanship, remember, we're bipartisan, not bisexual. There's a part of saying, you know what, we have to highlight the good and the bad. Because we do it in sports. Think about it, right? When Allen Iverson used to shoot 50 shots a game, we talked about the bad. But we all thought about, damn, he scored 48. and 12, and they won. The good and the bad. Maybe they could have been more efficient. Same thing in football, whether it's Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes, Steph Curry, right? LeBron James. It gets to a point of efficiency, but you have to measure the good and the bad. Whether you're playing a game of spades, Madden 2K, NFL, well, like, damn, I should have made an extra pass. Cool, right? Your efficiency wasn't there, but we have to measure it all. And what we get is, in some aspect, Bernie Sanders here telling you about the attacks that's happening from the federal government, right? And the attacks on our kids and the attacks on there. But what we're not talking about is, respectfully, we're not talking about the good thing. So Senate Bill 958. Title of the bill, Type 1 Diabetes Early Detection Program. I talked about this earlier on the chat. In the summary, Senate Bill 958 creates Florida Statute 381.992 to require the Florida Department of Health, in collaboration with early learning coalitions, school districts, school boards, and charter schools, to develop Type 1 diabetes informational materials and make such materials available on its website by September 29th, 2025. The bill requires the OH to annually notify parents and guardians of VPK kindergarten and first grade students of the availability of the informational materials. Cool. Present situation, diabetes is a chronic health condition. We understand what it is. Type 1 diabetes. It kind of gets to it like, this is the difference between a Florida breakdown and Texas breakdown of statutes, as you can clearly see, right, from what we went through earlier, right? Symptoms of type 1 diabetes. And this is at least for, respectfully, parents who may not know what type 1 diabetes is. And maybe the advertisement or the notification or the materials that are shared with you that you happen to read and go through, you're like, you know what, damn, why is my child excessively thirsty, frequently urinating, excessively hungry? Why did they gain so much weight? Why are they so tired? Why do they have blurred vision? Slow healing to cuts and sores, vaginal yeast infections. Maybe it'll help if, if the information is there. Maybe it'll help. So this is, to me, is a good law. What does that? Hold on. Hold on, make sure I'm back. Yeah, my bad, y'all. Hold on, we had some technical difficulties in there. For some reason, I think it was like a power snappage. I gotta turn my lights back on and everything. Luckily, some of the stuff started back up, so I was able to log right back in. But let me get my lights together. Give me 1 second, y'all. While we get this back functioning. Thank y'all for staying tuned too. I mean, clearly I got a nice little fan base. Man, are these? I don't think the lights were this bright before. What? Hold on. No, they weren't. Give me 1 second, y'all. The lights will switch up on. Hell, I can barely see. Barely. Yeah, that looks better. I don't think it's the same as it was. I bet on that. I had a little, I don't know what happened. Power outage, maybe I hit something. Maybe something hit me. Let me get back to where I was. Oh, I gotta set all this back up. Oh my goodness. Hold on, y'all. Because clearly, whoo, that's that. Give me 1 second. Let me get my. Yeah, there we go. All right. So we left off on Bernie. Not this one. Was it this one? No, all my shit changed up. I'm gonna leave it. All right. So basically, where were we? I think this is the bill we left off on, right? Hold on. There's some things I gotta add back in. Social stream ninja, so I can add y'all chats back. 1 second. Just everything restarted. All restart for real. On 1 second, I'm gonna get back right where I was before the power cut. Either way, appreciate y'all for subbing, patience for the technical difficulties. Where's the white hen? I don't have tonight, but let me actually get to the chat. But to the main point I was saying before I got cut out there was they never highlight good policy, right? It's always a divisive policy that gets shared. It's always the stuff that's going to be having people just upset. But this is, I'm going to get through this. Senate Bill 958 basically requires DOH to notify parents. Oh, to the point, that's where I was. So basically, if a parent may not know what the signs of type 1 diabetes are, this material would essentially help them. Now, you may be asking yourself, and something I always say is, okay, cool, if you're passing new laws, what is the fiscal, what is the financial cost, what is the burden, and who pays for it? Because who pays for it is actually a determining factor of how it actually gets implemented. Because is it school districts? Is it early childhood facilities? Who's going to pay for the website redesign? These different things, right? But as you see, the bill kind of lays out, the staff analysis lays out the complications and things of that nature. But as you get down to it, what the program informational graphic should look like in some aspects, kind of explaining, what it is. But the effects of the proposed bill require DOH to collaborate with early learning coalitions, school districts, school boards, and charter schools throughout the state to develop a type 1 diabetes informational materials for the parents and guardians of students. The information materials must be available on each school district, school board, and charter school or through DOH's website, right? The 90 days after July 1st, 2025, coming around the corner, right around the 4th of July, the Department of Health must develop the materials related to the early detection of type 1 diabetes and post information on its website. Now, to me, this would eventually get to a point of us calculating in some aspect where the obese kids are, not obese, sorry, type 1 diabetes kids are throughout the state, and then making sure that we have the proper food and nutrition in our schools. Now, to me, that is a proactive conversation, because if we're in a point of saying, okay, we can identify the signs, as the staff analysis said earlier, the complications, excessive thirst, excessive hunger, unexplained weight loss, fatigue, blurred vision, yeast infections, whatever it could be in the child or in the, like we learn, okay, cool. Now we can at least create preventative measures, whether it's food, activities, whatever it could be to help that child. And that's the part where it's like, damn, we can talk about the Trump attacks, Project 2025, racism, right? But when it comes down to good policy that makes sense for average everyday people, there's no bandwagon of people saying, hey, if your child could potentially have type 1 diabetes, they will have materials which could actually, they will have materials that could actually help you identify and maybe create preventative measures. And guess what? Hold on. The wife calling. Hey, babe. Jump up. What's up? Oh, you want to get something to eat? So I'm muted and all. My bad. I thought I was talking. I didn't realize I was muted. My bad, y'all. My bad. I was saying some good shit too. I was saying some good shit. Bernie Sanders. I just remember my whole. I was in a good damn vibe, and I checked to see. Damn, let me do a chat saying no sound, no sound. It's crazy. Crazy. Bernie Sanders is only good for fear tactics. They don't need to call him Senator Sanders. They need to call him Fear the Burn. Because he does nothing but spin the block on the bullshit, honestly, right? Because I was on a roll, bro. I was really on a roll, and I realized damn it. I need an assistant to make sure my technicals are right. Like, hey, yeah, your volume is there. Oh, God. Anyway, yeah, Bernie is full of shit to me. He needs to retire, respectfully, because it's simply a fact of it's nothing new. I'm going to just finish this out. I honestly lost my train of thought. I'm not going to watch all of this, but we'll see where we go from here. Feezy's working tonight, man. He doesn't do Monday, probably midweek. Another fear tactic. Not to say it in any kind of way. God's timing is divine, right? We don't understand how many people, honestly, they may be low income on Medicaid. Like, it could have been God's time for some people. Respectfully. Not all 50,000, but some. But then it's a fear tactic, right? It's a simple fear tactic of, damn, y'all can't hear Bernie now? This is crazy. Hold on. It's everything to restart. Oh, this is wild. My bad. Let me try to get this right. Let me try to get this right. I think I know what the problem is. Hold on. I gotta get this together. Hold on. Let me go back. I'm gonna go back 2 minutes. I'm gonna have Bernie say his piece. Clearly, it's technicalities. I'm gonna check to see if I can hear Bernie on my side too.
To the top
1 second.
1%.
And the wife's calling. 1 second.
At a time when these guys already own more wealth than the bottom 93% of Americans. This bill would also provide a $420 billion tax break to large corporations that are stashing their profits in offshore tax havens like the Cayman Islands. And by the way, this particular tax break makes it easier for these companies to invest in robots and artificial intelligence, and as a result, throw millions of workers out on the streets. And now, how does Trump and the Republicans pay for these huge tax breaks for the wealthy and large corporations? Well, at a time when over 85 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured, when our current healthcare system is already broken, this bill slashes Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act by more than $1 trillion. The Congressional Budget Office has estimated that this bill would eliminate healthcare for 16 million Americans. And a recent study from Yale University and the University of Pennsylvania concludes that when you throw 16 million low-income and working-class people off of the healthcare they have, it will result in 50,000 unnecessary deaths every single year. Further, this bill makes massive cuts to nutrition, education, and other programs that working families depend upon for their survival. In other words, this unspeakable piece of legislation takes from the most vulnerable people in our country, people who are barely hanging on today, and gives it to the very richest people who have never, ever had it so good. And in many ways, this legislation epitomizes exactly what Trumpism is all about. If you are rich and powerful, and you can make large campaign contributions.
Let's stop right there. But I want to stop it there for a reason, right? And I'm going to ask the chat before I get there. I'm going to ask the chat, and it's a simple question. It's for Bernie. Can you afford to give a politician $3,500 or $7,000 for their campaign today? It's a simple question. And I also want you to tell me where you're tapping in from tonight on the stream, right? I'm unpinning my first comment. I'm back, right? And I don't mean like you're giving it away to get it back. Give it away to support the candidate that you believe in, right? Because here's the contradiction I see in Bernie that I don't see from the American people. And here's what I'm going to go to, right? Here's what I'm going to go to real quick. Hold on. Wow. Hold on. This ain't, oh, we already saw this, Phil. This is the legislation. You're right. Yeah, my bad. That ain't it. I'm going to go to Bernie Sanders receipts, right? These are people who have given their friends of Bernie Sanders. I want to make sure I'm going to try to block out names, right? Respectfully. I'm going to try to block out people's names because, again, I don't know who's on this stream. And I don't want to be, oh, Phil sent people from the stream to somebody's page and they got doxxed, right? So let me set this up the right way. As you can see in this outside column, you have the amounts here, right? People from Maine, California, Oregon, Florida, all over. These are recent dates, March, as of last report, right? Now, there are duplicates here. If you've never been on ActBlue, I'm on ActBlue, which is this is FEC.gov. I apologize. This FEC.gov is the official website where you can go see how much people are giving, right? And what it'll do is, this will be the ActBlue contribution of 7,000, then there'll be another for 7,000. It'll match up somewhere, right? In there. But this essentially, somebody gave 7,000 here, 3,500 here, 3,500 here, 3,500. Same person actually gave this at 3,500. This is 35. Same person, right? 3,500 here, and this is different people. And these are, I'm just counting. This is the same person gave 3,500 here. Also, the same person who gave 3,500 here, right? So when Bernie Sanders, and this is just page one. This is, let me go more, 100 results per page, right? When Bernie Sanders is talking about, honestly, respectfully, to average everyday people, right? How many of you will be able to say, you know what, I'll be just like this person and give $7,000 away, $3,500 right now today to a candidate you support and say, you know what, this isn't the $3,500 for my rent will be paid, my bills will be paid, the eggs, whatever it is, it'll be paid, right? Can you afford to give that money away? Because the issue I'm having with Bernie is people are giving his campaign for the same thing. And here's what you got to go to, right? And I'll tell you, I'm going to be real with you because they're going to hate me because I'm going to be real. And I'm not going to speak negative over my life because I'm not scared of nobody. I'm just going to be real till the end, right? What you do is you look at the contributions. Let me straighten this out for y'all to see it, right? Now, we done got names out the way for the contributions. Because people can contribute, as you see, these are itemized, $11 million in the bank. Bernie has to run with no opponents. Think about this too. When was the last time you heard of anybody having a viable chance to unseat Bernie Sanders in Vermont? So he's raising money for what? I'm not saying he's losing it wrong, right? Because they have expenditures. Out of this 11 million raised, there's only 3 million spent. But where's the money being spent at, Phil? Right? Now, these are individual expenditures. I can show this. I can show you the companies and the organizations. I don't want to show the names of the donors, even though you can go find it, right? What I want to do is go through aisle 518 strategies from Arlington, Virginia. Hold on, this is the wife calling. Hold on. I'm going to have to go back to Bernie. The wife calling, make sure the wife's straight. And we're going to get right back into this, y'all. Give me 1 second. Hey, babe.
You are entitled to massive tax breaks that will make you even richer. If you're working class or low income, you are entitled to nothing. But the struggle we are engaged in now is not just to defeat this terrible piece of legislation. We are also engaged in an unprecedented effort to defeat authoritarianism and maintain our democracy. Never before in American history has a president acted with such disdain for our Constitution and for the rule of law as Trump is doing right now. He has usurped the power of Congress by putting a hold on appropriations that Congress has authorized, firing thousands of employees and abolishing agencies that Congress established. All that is illegal. He and his supporters have usurped the power of the judiciary by threatening to impeach judges who rule against Trump's policies. He has sued media and extorted them for large settlements, including ABC, Meta, and the Des Moines Register. He is now in negotiations with CBS and its parent company, Paramount, which he sued for $20 billion. Why? Oh, he didn't like an interview they did with Kamala Harris. His administration is attempting to zero out funding for PBS and NPR because they provide a more objective source of news than he is comfortable with. He has called CNN and MSNBC illegal. This is clearly a man who cannot tolerate criticism of him or what he does, which is exactly what authoritarianism is all about. He has extorted money from law firms who represented clients he didn't like, and he's going after universities whose courses he disagrees with. What he is saying, rather bluntly, if you stand up to Donald Trump, he will punish you. And that is not the America that so many brave Americans fought and died to defend. And now we have the situation unfolding in Los Angeles. So let me be clear. Trump's deployment of the National Guard and Marines in California is not about the protests. It is not about ICE, and it's really not about immigration. It's just another example of Trump using extremely dubious legal authority to expand his never-ending quest for more power and his effort to move this country toward authoritarianism. Trump's argument for his deployment of the troops is nothing less than absurd and laughable. Does anybody really believe that we are in the midst of a foreign invasion or a rebellion against the United States? Those are the legal arguments that Trump has used to nationalize the National Guard in California. Defeating Trumpism and the oligarchs who support him will not be easy. That's clear. These guys have enormous amounts of wealth and enormous amounts of power. But if there is anything that we learn from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s successful effort to combat racist officials and segregation, it is that disciplined resistance is the best way forward. Burning cars or throwing rocks at police officers is precisely what Donald Trump wants. If we're going to defeat Trumpism, it is going to require a multifaceted approach. So let me tell you a little bit about what we are doing. We have already held, as many of you know, 18 fighting oligarchy rallies in 12 states with over 250,000 people in attendance. Over 250,000 people came out, including many independents and Republicans. And we will soon be announcing a new series of rallies, which will be located in rural conservative areas, exactly the areas that we have got to turn around. Further, we have hired organizers in congressional districts where Republicans won with slim margins. We are also training thousands of people on how to run for office, from school board to Congress. And we have already announced our support for a number of strong progressive candidates, with more to come. In other words, we are building the kind of grassroots political infrastructure that is needed if we are going to defeat Trumpism. Let me get a little bit more specific. Short term, we're mobilizing opposition around the country to Trump's disastrous budget reconciliation bill. That bill has got to be defeated. Medium term, with Republicans holding only a 4-vote majority in the House and a 6-vote majority in the Senate, we are working hard to end their control of Congress. If we are successful, that will go a long way to putting the brakes on Trump's reactionary agenda.
It is nonsense. It's complete nonsense, is what your boy is saying. It's the same thing that Bernie said since 2007, 2005, whenever he first got to Congress. He hasn't been able to fix it because they know he's the activist, and he's not doing, Trump isn't honestly doing anything that most politicians don't do when they win. I'm going to tell you a true story. There's a judge by the name of Eric Eisenhower. He's a judge now. He used to be a state representative. It got to a point where he was going to come after AT&T because this is back when you had like random apps on your phone, like iPhone was still around, but it was a different time then, right? So the main point, he was coming after AT&T because basically he got caught up text messaging like with the app, and something his wife got caught up in, like, oh, you know, you're texting other women. No, it wasn't. But you have this app that's basically selling lawless ads on my phone that made awkward conversation. So I'm gonna come after you, right? The bill didn't go anywhere. It happens because when you go all in, like the trial lawyers, the defense lawyers, or anything else that's fighting up against a crucial issue, they're going to come after you the other way. It's a part of the game. So that's what it is. Now, somebody did say I haven't really been checking the chat as much today. My apologies for y'all today, man. But somebody asked, well, what's the point when I was going through Bernie's stuff? Here's the main point. As I get back to this, right? Hold on. The main point is Bernie spent $500,000 in February running digital advertisements to tell his people to spin the block on a narrative, to have these rallies, right? He spent another $300,000 in March. Amex card, more digital advertising. So basically, think about it like this. Bernie Sanders has no opponent, right? And he's taking people's money, millionaires' money, also small dollar donations money, just to have these oligarch rallies throughout the country. Because he doesn't have an opponent. It's poverty pimping. Because, I mean, this poll real quick, for the people that are here, the 100 that were brave enough to participate in this poll, right? Hey, Lawrence. Hey, Reverend Lawrence. 94% of 180 voters said that they would not be able to give $3,500 or $7,000 away to Bernie Sanders or any political candidate today, right now, today. So now we're talking about, okay, the haves and the have-nots. So when Bernie's talking about the haves and the have-nots, he also has to realize, like, okay, cool, my point exchange is like, cool, the same people that's propping you up are the haves. So you're talking about, okay, they're making a tax on the millionaires and billionaires. You're being propped up by the millionaires and billionaires. Like, what are we saying? We have the same Democratic, because, you know, check this out, real shit, real talk. Do you know if you want to be an ambassador to any country in the world, you have to give a certain amount to the presidential candidate that's running? What are we talking about? It's pay to play with these boys. You want to be an ambassador to Russia? You want to be an ambassador to Jamaica? You want to be an ambassador to Honduras? You have to put a price tag on it. Don't believe me? Go ask the former city commissioner and Alan Katz of Tallahassee how much he gave to Barack Obama and what was his ambassador to in Portugal? The former ambassador to Portugal, who was the city commissioner, how much did he raise for Barack Obama to get that? I'm not bullshitting you people. Let's pull the curtain back. Pull the covers off this shit and really make it happen. I'm telling you what it is, right? So you can be mad at the fact of, okay, cool, but it's the same thing. Like, even, let's go look at AOC. Ocasio-Cortez. All right. 9 million. She's not bagging as much as, oh boy, but she spent 5. Who was running against her? Right? I don't see anybody being AOC in her district, right? But here's where the money's going. Digital advertising. Facebook. MX. Facebook. Credit card. B-Rex, excuse me. I read. Middle seat. List acquisitions. So she's basically going to get people to talk to. She's basically running. You probably don't need $250,000 worth of data for people that you just ran a race for 2 years ago. People haven't moved in and out of your district like that. You're getting new data for people all across the country because you can get this whole state for $5,000 worth of data. So $250,000 worth of data, that means that you must have went and got all 50 states. You running for president, madam? People supporting it. But you got to know you got to track where the money goes, because all it is like, okay, it's digital advertising to put out there to fight the narrative, to tell them about the rallies, to tell them about the narrative, right? To tell them about what the oligarchs are doing and all this other stuff. However, what you're not doing is teaching people how to impact the process, how to change the laws, because it's easy to say, Bernie, Senator, what the oligarchs are doing, what the anarchy that's causing, how we're going to have these rallies and we're going into rural areas where Republicans won by slim margins. What are you saying to Republicans to make them go vote for you? Not a damn thing, Bernie. You don't even know what a living wage is. You haven't in 20 years, the last 20 years in Congress, you haven't been able to tell the American people that live in New York, California, Texas, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, and the American world how much the living wage actual factual number is. Because you go tell people, oh, well, we need to up the minimum wage. People need to be making $15 an hour. 40 hours a week, 52 hours, no days off, 52 weeks a year. In order for them to barely make ends meet on one job. What are we talking about? The narrative, the problem is you have a poverty pimp like Bernie Sanders. I'm going to call them all poverty pimps for real, because he knows good and damn well the past 20 years he could have helped fix some shit. You're not an activist. You're a whole U.S. senator. There are only 100 of you in the whole United States of America, the whole world. And you can't move shit that you've been crying about for 20 years? Get your ass out of office. What are we talking about? Why are you elected? Why are you elected if you're going to cry and bitch and moan? We don't elect people to bitch and moan. We don't watch LeBron James and argue with the fucking referees. That's what we're doing. We're electing Democrats, senators, Republicans, whoever, to argue with the fucking referees. Argue with the people that's actually going to make a difference on the impact of the policy, so you can stop talking about the bullshit. Because it's, again, the same time you're pushing this narrative of attack, and Democrats do this, Republicans do it too. I'm going back to it. Hold on. That ain't the bill. This one right here. The type 1 diabetes. Hold on. Because when the state of Florida passes a bill to help you detect type 1 diabetes in your child in your school, they just don't say, hey, we're going to put the posters up. You know, they also say they're going to pass House Bill 597, the bill to expand diabetes management in public schools by authorizing school districts or public schools to acquire and maintain a supply of glucagon, I hope I pronounced it right, for use on students with diabetes experiencing hypoglycemic emergencies. This is what I'm saying. So we can have the narrative of we're cutting Medicare, we're cutting healthcare. The kids, they're going to get kicked off. The 16 million kids that are out there getting kicked off. Okay, cool. Well, let's talk about maybe the 100,000, 200, the 500,000 kids in the state of Florida, potentially. I'm just making up numbers. I haven't looked. That could be impacted by having basically their medication at school. They got what they need. If the kids get what they need, and I know it's only Florida, right? What I'm saying is there has to be a point where we get out of the fear tactics and say, you know what, again, this is actually something good we passed. Here's something that's bad. The bad parts of this bill, they're good parts of this bill. But this is a piece of legislation that says, you know what, how can you go against it? This had 110 yays, 0 nays. And there are about 30 Democrats. So 30 Democrats came and voted with the Republicans in a supermajority to say, hey, we support this piece of legislation. What's the financial cost of this? Probably not. See, because it's not as divisive as other things, right? I'm going to get to that one in a second. Like this workforce development for charter schools, right? Some people could be against it. It's a simple law, change here in Florida, sign into law, House Bill 1145, which allows the Workforce Development Capitalization Incentive Grant Program to also be used not only by school districts and the Florida college system, but by charter schools, right? Now, this is, as you see, it's only one underlying section here, charter schools. It's the only thing in this law that actually changed, right? Well, other sections, because they added this section as well, I'll correct myself. But you can see this, everything else is mainly already in statute, right? This is a 4-page bill. This isn't long. But here's the impact of it, right? What we're looking for, Workforce Development Capitalization Incentive Program. Let me copy that. And what I'm going to look for, and this is what I have here. This is Florida's budget that's just been passed out Friday and voted on tonight while we've been on the stream. But this is in the budget, line 123, $40 million of that. So that means $40 million of this incentive grant program for workforce development could be pulled down by charter schools along with colleges and school districts, right? So it says, okay, collectively, when I talk about buying back the block, our kids' education, and things of that nature, what I'm saying is being a part of the process and understanding, okay, cool, how do we prepare our kids for the next generation of jobs? So if you have a charter school that's a high school, that's a middle school, and say, okay, cool, what grant money can we pull down? What can we put together for this workforce development project to say, okay, here we can do from a, what is it? Maybe HVAC courses on campus, right? Maybe it's AI training, cybersecurity, whatever, right? There's a part of saying, okay, how can we make this happen? But if we're only at the table talking about things that are being cut, the fear, the hate, the racism, the deportations, then we'll never get into the real facts of what we need to discuss. And we get to a point of, okay, we're attacking the millionaires and the billionaires. Cool. What millionaires and billionaires do we know that can open a school in our Black communities, in our Title I communities, where we know that the kids are going to be 98% free lunch, free or reduced lunch, right? How can we collectively work and prepare these kids for the next generation of opportunities that are out there? Because just because their daddy was a foreman doesn't mean he has to be a foreman too. Or just because their mother was working in the hotel hospitality industry as a housekeeper doesn't mean that he has to be the house manager next. He doesn't have to go clean. Maybe he can go in tech, cybersecurity, whatever. It's about being a part of this conversation. And that's where I get lost in the mix of, and again, I do state politics. I'm a lobbyist. If it's your first time here, thank you for tapping in. Again, This is a part of the process that says, you know what, I wish people understood the actual possibilities of what's out there with legislation and law. Most people don't. Most people just want to spin the block and just have people's blood pressure going. I don't. What I'm looking at is, okay, this is a $40 million grant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Out of this $40 million, what collectively can I say, okay, this can come back to my community
thus far
by educating them about these issues? And if I could do that and it makes an impact, then I know I've done a good job. But because people don't want to make an impact on real things, they just want to spin the block on hot button narratives, it pisses me off because I'm like, bruh, this is solvable. These issues that we have in America today are very solvable. But people don't want to solve them. They just want to say, hey, let's go somewhere else. What I'm going to do is go back to, I'll find another link. Senate Bill 3-piece. I don't feel like dealing with the Texas part. Oh. I'm going to go to the CBS report about the Republicans releasing new parts of the bill. The Build Back Better bill. I'm going to get to the chat after that. And let's see where we at. I'll find something good for us. If not, then I'll at least keep it productive. Let's get here, see what other good interviews I can pull in, and then wrap it up.
Senate Finance Committee has released the draft text for its portion of President Trump's budget reconciliation bill. It includes a proposal to permanently extend the state and local tax deduction cap at $10,000. That is different to the $40,000 cap that was in the House's version of the bill. And this comes as the Senate looks to push that bill to President Trump's desk by the upcoming July 4th recess, not too long from now. And for more on this, let's bring in congressional correspondent Nicole Killian. Nicole, what else stands out to you with this reconciliation text, and how are lawmakers reacting to some of these changes?
Yeah, well, that SALT change is a big one, even though it impacts only certain portions of the country in terms of states like California and New York, where the state and local taxes, in the view of many lawmakers, is too high. So that's why they wanted to raise the cap on those deductions. So over in the House, that cap had been raised to $40,000 that family or an individual could deduct. Well, now under the Senate version, they have reduced it back to that $10,000 cap, although it extends that cap permanently. It was due to expire at the end of this year, but already we are hearing from a number of House Republicans who were involved in those very delicate negotiations with the House Speaker, criticizing this, particularly the Republican chairs of the SALT caucus, who say that this undermines the work that they did on this issue, that they hope the Senate will still continue to have discussions with them about this. There's a New York Republican, Mike Lawler, who's been very vocal on this issue, threatening to vote no against the final bill if this $10,000 cap remains.
And one of the other major sticking points, Nicole, has been potential cuts to Medicaid. So how did the Senate Finance Committee address that in this bill?
Yeah, well, that is another issue. I mean, clearly, when we're talking about the Senate Finance Committee, they have jurisdiction over the tax portion of this package and the Medicaid portion of this package. So in terms of Medicaid, one of the changes that was made was to this issue of provider taxes, which, you know, if you get into the nitty gritty of this for people who work in the healthcare sector, what this means is that in the Senate version, they have now brought that percentage down to 3.5%. And, you know, why that is significant is that states use these provider taxes as a way to fund their Medicaid programs, particularly in states that have Medicaid expansion. So by lowering that percentage or that provider tax, that basically some critics argue could eventually shrink the Medicaid program in respective states. And so again, that would, in the view of some, amount to potential cuts. So that is a concern there. There were many in the House who did not really want to touch this issue of provider taxes, but the Senate does take things a bit further. So that's in there. Obviously, this bill also raises the debt limit to $5 trillion, in large part to help pay for this bill, most notably extending the president's tax cuts.
And Nicole, before we let you go, lawmakers are back there on Capitol Hill for the first time since the politically motivated shootings in Minnesota this weekend. And we're also learning several congressional members were on the suspects' target list. What more can you tell us about that?
Yeah, this is of grave concern to a lot of lawmakers as they return to Capitol Hill this week. You know, this is a truncated week in that the Juneteenth holiday is coming up, so only the Senate is in session, the House is out. But we have seen a number of House lawmakers say that they were notified by Capitol Police that they were on this so-called hit list of the suspect who was involved in those Minnesota shootings, including Texas Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, Ohio Congressman Greg Landsman, as well as Hillary Scholten, who is a Michigan Democrat who actually said she is postponing some of her town halls in the wake of this. So it is of grave concern. We saw a letter from Leader Hakeem Jeffries earlier today to Speaker Mike Johnson calling on the Speaker to direct the Sergeant at Arms to provide the maximum security for members, not only here on Capitol Hill, but certainly around the country, but also to expand or increase the allowance that members get for their security. So that is something, too, that the leader is pressing for. And we know that both in the Senate and the House, there will be security briefings for both members of the House and Senate tomorrow by both the Sergeant at Arms and U.S. Capitol Police to address lawmakers' concerns.
Nicole Killian, thank you very much for joining.
That's a lot. I mean, it's probably more of a filler, to be honest. I had to get some other things queued up here for the channel. Give me 1 second. Take some of the old videos we watched down and put these others back up. I know Bernie gonna do what Bernie gonna do. Bernie gonna do what Bernie gonna do every time, and it just pisses me off. I'm like, bro, can you just stop with the old senile shit now? To be honest. Oh, I'll go back to my girl Jasmine Crockett. Hold on, that ain't it. Actually, no, I didn't see President Trump's speech from the military. You're probably gonna hate me, but I'm gonna rewatch it anyway. I haven't seen it, so I'm gonna rewatch it. I'm gonna watch it for the first time. Y'all may have seen it already. Let me get to some of the chat too. So I'll be talking over this quite quick, so y'all seen this already. I haven't watched the movie. Good morning, Pierre.
Thank you to Vice President Vance, and thank you to our wonderful First Lady, and above all, thank you to the greatest, fiercest, and bravest fighting force ever to stride the face of this earth, the United States Army. Thank you very much. Because the Army keeps us free, you make us strong, and tonight, you have made all Americans very proud. They're watching from all over the world, actually. Made them all very proud. Every other country celebrates their victories. It's about time America did too. That's what we're doing tonight. And watching this magnificent display, our souls are filled with gratitude for every generation of warriors who have worn the uniform all the way back to the very beginning. So to every veteran across our land and right here in our nation's capital, including 6 recipients of the Congressional Medal of Honor, we love you, we honor you, and we salute your noble service to our flag and to our country. As we celebrate tonight, we also think of the hundreds of thousands of Army soldiers who have made the supreme sacrifice for our nation and selflessly laid down their lives in every war, from the Revolution to the War on Terror. To the Gold Star families with us today, the courage of your heroes is the bedrock on which our entire nation stands. We thank you. Yes, we thank you. Today we commemorate an event that did not just change American history, but changed the history of the entire world with the creation of America's Army.
First young, I know it's a bad thing, DD. By the time I get to 5, it's over.
Liberty got its shield and the freedom got its sword. Those first
No, Andrew, I'm actually watching the official White House stream.
Fearsome enemy and
maybe those some artificial hands can class put in there. I haven't seen any of it yet,
cause.
but I can see official White House stream for Trump for some reason. You know, help them get their viewership up while, you know, I'll get mine up. And if anything, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel if it's the first time here. I'll do my spiel later. I actually just, hopefully I have some more energy tomorrow.
Victory or death. Over the past 2.5 centuries, our warriors have shown unrivaled battle around the globe.
That's on one.
With the frostbitten
Tammy, I thank you for moderating tonight, man.
They have marched into the flames and fury of combat, charged up mountains, stormed beaches, waded through torrents of gunfire, and leapt into skies thick with smoke and shrapnel. The U.S. Army has driven bayonets into the heart of sinister empires, crushed the ambitions of evil tyrants. Beneath the threads of American tanks, it's done so well, it's done so much, and sent the devil himself flying into full retreat. Time and again, America's enemies have learned that if you threaten the American people, our soldiers are coming for you. Your defeat will be certain, your demise will be final, and your downfall will be total and complete.
I'm losing
because our
souls.
soldiers never give up, never surrender, and never ever
Hey, Andrew, I honestly
they
didn't watch. I'm probably about to cut it off because one is old news for real.
And that's why no institution in history has entered more names into the roster.
You know what I haven't covered in a couple of days? I'll be 10 toes down with y'all.
Medal of Honor.
I'm gonna just skip it right on through.
Or anything.
I have no problem with the military. I love the military. Right. However, we haven't checked in on the Diddy trial. So I'm gonna skip ahead to this buddy's ads. Let's see where we are with the Diddy trial, y'all. Because I haven't checked in with the Diddy trial in like 2 weeks plus. Let's see where we are with this. Then I may wrap up after that. I'm a little tired.
Before we get into the testimony, we got to talk about this drama with a juror number 6, dismissed. What happened?
Yeah, so it didn't necessarily come as a surprise that this particular juror, that being juror number 6, was dismissed. I think the judge was kind of signaling that this that this specific juror was going to be dismissed, kind of hinting about this on Friday. But then he took into consideration what the defense had to say, as they made really an impassioned speech about why this particular juror should stay. But as far as what the judge said this morning in court, he said, I understand it's important, but this amount of scrutiny is not necessary. And I think it kind of had to do with just the letter that the defense had, kind of accusing the prosecution of dismissing this particular juror, mainly based off race and just other accusations from the defense to the government. And so as far as what the judge said, he said the inconsistencies from this specific juror raised a lot of issues. And pretty much these inconsistencies were just about where this particular juror lived. So he was registered in Bronx County. He picked up the call to serve on this jury from Bronx County. However, there was this statement that was made to a jury staff member, just kind of out of jest from this particular juror, where he had mentioned something along the lines of, oh, the traffic from New Jersey is crazy, or, oh, I just had to travel all the way down from New Jersey, which kind of signaled to other staffers, okay, what's going on here, given that you're a juror from Bronx County, or specifically from the Bronx. And so what ended up happening is the judge brought this particular juror back in the robing room, or judge's chambers, and spoke to this juror just about what was really happening, and spoke to him about a couple of times here. So it wasn't just a one and done type of situation, Jesse. It was something that had been mulling over for a couple of days. And so the judge ended up going back and looking at the record pretty closely. So he reviewed the transcript from the robing room.
I know I didn't vote for Donald Trump.
Even further, and looked at just some of the questions and answers from the jury selection process. So the judge said that there were inconsistencies, and clear inconsistencies, from voir dire, which is jury selection, and the robing room.
One thing I haven't done tonight is actually go through the chat and read through the chat. BA, no, I didn't vote for Donald Trump. But I do know some Republicans that I did vote for that may have supported his agenda. You know what I'm saying? I know him personally. I know that there'll be a phone call away. Pierre, appreciate you for tapping in the stream tonight. And Brooke, what's going on? Joshua, hilarious. Diddy might get off. Diddy gets off in prison every day. Y'all hilarious. I think I heard a mouse fart. That's my chair. My chair. Yeah, there it is. It makes it. I put WD-40 on it, but thanks, Terry. Yeah, we were about 500 earlier, man. We actually had about 80 people waiting when we getting on. We had too many trolls. That's why I made some mods. Here's the thing. Here's the craziest part. Think about it, right? I'm making full screen for that because I'm just going through the chat. The crazy part is I probably have a lot more Republican mods than I have Democrat mods. And this is a Democratic, not Democrat. I'm a Democrat. This is a moderate channel. We're in the middle, right? Bipartisan. Remember, we're not bisexual. We're bipartisan. So this is an in the middle channel. You say what you want, feel how you feel, just be respectful. But honestly, I need some more Democratic mods because I don't want the Dems to feel, or my people in the culture feeling, oh, he got nothing but Republicans over there. Well, honestly, my opinion is my opinion, my perspective is my perspective, and people on both sides of the aisle seem to agree. It's just that my man Didi, my good homegirl from Pompano, Terry, when we end up talking, we agree on a lot of things, but I'm quite sure, like most folks, they're not 100% with me. Like, they're probably like, yeah, I feel on certain things, 95%, 90% I'm with you. Cool, I respect that, I love it. But it is what it is. And Didi, listen, that may be one of the first shirts. Terry, I know you said we're going to get one, like for the Trump derangement syndrome. I think for a shirt design, no lie, I smoke, right? I smoke weed, not crack. Just put I'm bi at the top of the shirt, like I'm bi, but then put partisan and put a sexual, but cross it out. People be like, what the fuck? Because most people, honestly, they probably won't know what bipartisan is. I think it's like another thing to go with the LGBTQI. Oh, this guy's gay. No, I'm not gay. I'm a full, straight, heterosexual husband and father. But I know that if I tell people I'm bipartisan, not bisexual, it's like, damn, that's kind of hitting. But it's also catchy, right? It's kind of get people going. But what I don't want to do is have the alphabet boys, not the ATAF, FBI, CIA, or IRS come after me, the LGBTQIA, because I don't want them thinking, oh, he's attacking us. He coming after us. You can be bipartisan and bisexual. Yes, you can, but I can't. But if we do, if you are, make sure you buy the shirt too. Right? Either way. No, it still sounds gay though. But here's the thing, Glimbo. There's nothing gay about being bipartisan. Bipartisan means that basically outside the partisan politics, right? This is for the people. That's what the people want. So if the people want something that's bipartisan that both the Republicans and the Democrats can agree on, then yeah, it can sound gay, but that means the American people will benefit. So let it sound gay. Let it sound gay, boo. Anyway, it's not. That's the main point. Let's get to it, man. Let me go watch some of this Diddy stuff and see how long I can go. Pause. See how long I can go tonight, man. Let's get there.
Conversations, and the judge had serious concerns about this particular juror's candor and how the juror might have just kind of skewed his answers during the jury selection process, and even when he was having these discussions with the judge too in the robing room, and how he might have skewed his answers in order to just stay on the jury. And
Didi, we're in the same boat daily.
Threatening the integrity of the jury process. So the defense brought up that the juror will be placed by a white juror, and the defense was kind of really
Nuri, I feel you too.
They just did not want this particular juror dismissed. And so the court took the weekend to look at the defense's argument and everything they had to say, and they didn't believe, they being the court, didn't believe that further inquiry of this jury is appropriate, and they actually said that further inquiry would be inappropriate. And so the judge said that there was nothing that the juror could say that would put the jury back in the bottle. He said this is why we have alternate jurors precisely for this particular situation. And so The defense did ask the court to not make this
Diddy
decision
bipartisan as
based off race,
fuck.
but the court should and
Hey,
cannot
Gloria,
let race
how you doing
impact it.
tonight?
The judge saying that there was no evidence even of prosecutorial misconduct, and there was zero evidence of that too. So what ended up happening is that juror number 6 was dismissed from the case. So the jury box looks just a little bit differently going forward now, as a lot of the jurors, especially starting kind of in the back row, shifted just one seat over to, I guess, the left of the jury box. And so now we see one of the alternates becoming now an official juror. Well, they've always been a juror, right? But now they're officially going to be on the kind of jury pool to be deliberating. And so a lot of stuff happened just this morning, but I think, you know, the writing was on the wall that the judge was ultimately leaning toward dismissing juror number 6.
And you make a good point for everybody out there. It's not like this alternate juror has been in a locked room for the past 6 weeks. They've been hearing all the same testimony.
Thanks for tapping in from Austin, Miguel.
Become a part of the actual deliberation process. Elizabeth, real quick, was there some issue with another juror too, but we don't have a lot of information about what's going on with that?
Yeah, so what we did learn is that the issues concerning these 2 jurors really have nothing to do with one another, but we did kind of learn a little bit possibly more information, and that was from TMZ. So shout out to Brian Andrews and the TMZ team, because we did kind of learn that I guess this other issue with another juror had to do with a text message they received from somebody. It was from an unknown sender asking if this person was the juror that was going to be dismissed. And so there was no conversations that were had outside the presence of the jury today, as far as even any types of decisions about whether this particular juror who got the message, because the big thing is they're not supposed to be talking about this case outside, but then there's also the issue, this jury isn't sequestered. So I'm always kind of curious too whether or not they're getting a lot of information. The judge, you know,
From the internet, bro. Like, what are you talking
at the end of
about?
the day, it's like, don't talk about this case with anyone. Turn off your notifications. If you see an article about this case, turn it off. Throw your phone away. You know, go outside. Those types of things. And so, from right now, what we know is that there hasn't been any type of action taken on this particular juror, but the juror did feel a type of way and letting the court know that they did receive this type of message. But as far as any action, as far as dismissing the juror or questioning this juror even further, nothing has been taken today.
And I think that's another thing. People think Diddy may get off. I think he might, based on the jury not being sequestered, right? And that just means locked in a hotel, you know, away from everybody. Because all they have to do, if Diddy is guilty, all his attorneys have to do is go prove, okay, go subpoena everybody's cell phone records that was a juror. Because they're going to come out with, you know, their own stories. You know, juries always do. The jurors always do. So they're going to come out and say their piece. Cool, come out and say it. But when second you do, our lawyers are going to go ahead and tap them AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon cell phone towers to see what have they been searching. And once they go search and find out that you were subscribed and you were on YouTube or watching the Hip Hop Lobbyist channel, and they happen to talk about a case, and you happen to see, hey, welcome, thank you for subscribing, then they're going to let Diddy off and mistrial all the rest of the stuff. Then they have to try it again. They're like, you know what, the feds are going to be like, we don't want to put this much energy into it. And then Diddy gets off and the embarrassment sticks. So I think that there could be an avenue there for Diddy to get off. I'm not pushing for it, but I could see it, because this is kind of situation like, why wouldn't you go ahead and like lock the hotel down if this is supposed to be a short trial? Lock the hotel down to make sure that you lock down all loopholes. The feds didn't want to do it. The judge didn't want to do it. The state of New York has the money to do it, but clearly.
And I'll tell you, when we do the lunchtime show on Law and Crime's YouTube channel, I can't tell you how many questions we get was it a mistake to not sequester this jury? How can we ensure they don't follow anything about the case? I mean, at the end of the day, they should not know who you are, Elizabeth. The person who's the face.
No Diddy defender than me. I think Diddy needs to go to jail for, hold on.
They should not know who I am.
Just for the record, for anybody new here, thank you for liking and subscribing. I'm not a Diddy supporter. After the Cassie video, I was like, okay, I'm done with this. Because my man paid up, the video hit, he paid up. It's like, bro, I can't respect that. Right? So, no. But there are some people, free, First Amendment, say what you want, feel how you feel. Just don't offend me, and we're going to keep it moving. But, damn, her face look crazy right here. Why not pause him like this? To the main point, I think, you know, Diddy's gonna get off, I believe, but I'm not saying I support it. I don't support it.
I am, and if they do, it's a problem. Okay, so we move past the juror issue. Now we go into summary witnesses. Summary witness is very interesting in a case like this. Basically, when you have a voluminous amount of material, particularly digital evidence, you need sometimes a witness to kind of condense it, to kind of do an overview, to summarize what it's about. You know, you have charts that are presented by the government. So obviously in a racketeering case like this, and particularly when you have so many different players and all these underlying allegations, I'm not surprised. I want to talk about the first witness, this first summary witness. It was
Nuri, thanks for subscribing.
And her name is, and correct me if I mispronounce it, Anya Sanker. What was her role?
Yeah, so Anyanya Sanker, I hope I'm pronouncing it right too, Jesse. So her role essentially was just...
Daniel, you know what? This is I gotta pause this for a second. You know what? You're right. If you say only 30% of America voted for Donald, I'll give you that. It's about, out of all the people eligible to vote, respectfully, we know that there are only a certain amount of people that come out to vote, period. It's called voter projections. Basically, I'm gonna tell you what we do, right? We take the 2020, in the 2024 election in case, right? We look at the 2020 election, the 2016 election, and the 2012 election. And based on those elections, we can project the amount of people that are going to come out for the next election. Now, we don't compare it to the midterm elections of 2022 or 2018 or 2014. Because you got to compare apples to apples, oranges to oranges. People turn out in general elections, Democrats, more for the president than they do for anyone else, right? In the midterm elections, you need the governor or the U.S. senator that's on the top of your ballot to drive everyone else, because Democrats don't worry about the middle of the ballot. They only focus on the top and think, okay, if you vote Democrat at the top, you're going to vote Democrat all the way down. I voted Democrat at one top, and I had a Christmas tree in the middle of that bit. So it is what it is. However, I knew what I was voting for. I'm just saying, Christmas tree. However, when the presidential election comes, we understand that, okay, cool, there are only a certain amount of people that come out. The issue ends up being Democrats. Since the Obama election, we've ran on the hope narrative, hope and change, and now we switch to fear. Cool, right? The bigger issue is, one, people aren't driven by fear to go vote. And two, if you don't have a candidate at the top of the ticket that's going to drive everyone who's on the fence, the non-party affiliates, like a lot of people in the chat are right now, if you don't have someone who can engage both sides of the aisle, bipartisan, then it's an issue for your race. Kamala Harris could not engage middle of the market people. Like, case in point, I told people, I'm not an online shopper like that. I like to go in the mall, buy my shoes, go to the outlet, buy my stuff, come home, wear it, try it on. Okay, cool, let's go, right? I'll wear it eventually. My wife would like to online shop. So she's like, as I say, she's an absentee voter. She's an early voter, where she can vote early, send her ballot off. Okay, good. I can find it on election night, whenever it gets here, right? Alibaba Timu type shit. Me, I'm an election day voter. I like to wake up and go because I made up my mind already, but this is a day I want to find out the same day that I vote, right? Cool. Tech support. Yeah, what's currently happening. So to the main point that William was thinking about, or Daniel was thinking about 30%, it's not about everybody that we're talking to. And this is from a political consultant. For real. We're only focused on the people that actually come out to vote, people that are over 55. People that are over 55 vote more. People who had the voting rights for the first time vote more than younger people. That's why the Bernie, we need to get young people to vote, because he realizes that the old people are dying off. The old people that gave a shit about the billionaires and millionaires, they're dying off, in the younger generation, like the Kai Cenats of the world. They don't care. You know why? Because they can go make $1 million in one stream. Hopefully we'll get there one day, right? They can go make $1 million in one stream. So you're trying to make me the bad guy now? I just pull myself up by my bootstraps and, hey, I need a camera and some lights, and let's see if I can go get some people who like me. Right? That's the world we live in today. So all put together, it gets to a point of that 30% that come out. It's about the people that we know are going to show up in the arena. It's about, okay, cool. We know each NBA team has 15 players. Out of these 32 NBA teams, there's a likelihood that 2 of them are going to make it. That's what we're focused on. The 2 teams that can get to the final arena for election day to have people go vote. And that's what it is. So I get people, you may not have liked the results for what it is. But the strategy of it is we don't talk to everybody. We talk to people that actually vote, because we waste money talking to people that will not vote. Respectfully, right? It comes down to the cost of actual voting, the cost of that mailer, the cost of the radio, the cost of that digital ad. You see how much, we go back to it. You see how much Bernie and AOC were spending in digital advertisements? Think about it. They need to get you some kind of way. And that's why they're spending the money. Quick roll call. Let me know who you're tapping in from. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida today. Let me know, for the people that are here, city or state or region of the world that you're in. We've had people from South Africa, Finland, the UK, Liverpool the other day. My man Didi's in Memphis. I know Tammy is in my good old South Florida. But let me know who you're tapping in from today. I'm going to do a little bit more Diddy and then maybe wrap up in a bit. A little tired.
And those being the summary charts. And so she said that the government prepared the charts.
No, I don't think Kamala Harris would have been. You know what? Maybe I just do a full face. Maybe let's just answer. Let me do a Q&A. Let me just answer the people. Fort Wayne in the house. Terry. Sorry, I said Tammy. I apologize. Terry. No, I don't think she would have been a better president based on the situation that she was walking into. One, for 3.5 years, they never even gave her a chance to be a J.D. Vance, to at least get American people to get to know her. When you had people like D.O. Hughley and other people saying, you know what, I didn't even read about her record and I was misinformed. She was the vice president for 3 years. And honestly, I think that part of even Biden saying, and people saying, oh, you got to get somebody black, it backfired. Like that, if you want to say a DEI hire, it backfired. And I have friends who respectfully work for her and friends who respectfully work to get Joe Biden the nomination. Cool, right? At the end of the day, no, I don't think she would have been a good president, because she couldn't even get support realistically from Shapiro out of Pennsylvania or other other people to be vice president, because they didn't believe she was strong enough as president, and she had high turnover in her office. So it's like more a fact of nobody want to work for her. And that's outside of the black piece, that's outside of the woman piece, that's outside of the racial narrative that she was put on. So it is what it is. Who else we got? I'm a Democrat, I'm not a Harris fan, right? So I haven't read JD's book. I'll maybe check out the audio book. I've never seen Kanye streaming before. Everybody calling me Kanye. Y'all are wilding in these streets. The God particle. Well, make sure you like and subscribe if you like Kanye. What has J.D. Vance done? I really don't know, to be honest. Somebody said he wrote a book. Fort Wayne, Orlando, reading James from all them places at one time. Anyway, look what's happening. Defunding FEMA seemed like a good idea. I think they said that they wanted to give FEMA back to the states, which I think that they felt that the states could do a better job at what they were trying to do. I got you. Rather than the federal government coming in, they can probably deploy faster. Because a lot of times you have to realize when FEMA comes in, it's not necessarily FEMA fixing all this other stuff. It could be Lloyd, KPMG, and Indelible Solutions, right? Where they hire these disaster management firms to actually deploy. So what happens is the states don't have the money, the federal government has the money, but the government doesn't have any damn resources to say, hey, we're able to deploy housing and insurance and all the other stuff, right? So state gets hit, like the state of Florida, Kansas gets hit with a tornado, right? And they deploy FEMA. Or hurricane hits Florida, they deploy FEMA. FEMA deploys money, but the state can't take the money. What's the state going to do with the money? So FEMA hires the contractors and the contractors deploy, and the third party ends up doing it. So that's why I feel that when you understand the basics of it, yes, it could come out. It could cut some red tape to say, okay, cool. There's a disaster in Florida. We already have $100 billion set aside. Let's just send it to Florida. Florida, you got your $100 billion. Deploy how you need for your disaster recovery management. Instead of you peacemaking your budget off the federal dollars, because when the administration changes and the priorities change and we have a new hurricane and a new something else, then it's different, right? It delays the impact. And this is what happens when you have hurricanes hit like rural areas, whether it's in New Orleans or Houston or whatever, right? Or the rural areas of America, like, to be honest, not just my misquote there. It takes a while for them to rebuild because they're not an urban area where there's a priority to make sure that bridge, that road gets prioritized to get back, right? So case in point, you have a hurricane hit, let's say a hurricane goes up the North Shore, and then that boat comes and takes out the bridge in Baltimore. It really happened. Now that's a priority. What do you prioritize? The recovery for the hurricane in North Carolina and New York and other places? I know I said New York. I'm just thinking of, hurricanes have hit New York and flooded New York a couple years ago. So when you think about that, what becomes a priority? The hurricane in North Carolina that had people in the Appalachian Mountains stuck, maybe a home that was drowned out from the last hurricane that hit New York 4 or 5 years ago, or the bridge that just collapsed in Baltimore last year, on top of the Hurricane Michael recovery still. So it's a part of FEMA's great, but when you get into the fact of you're playing this domino of, okay, this disaster happened to the next, who's going to get paid when, it could sometimes be better at the states, to be honest. My personal opinion, right? But I'm no FEMA expert. Stop hiring contractors, can't happen that way. National Guard for disasters, fucking easy, it's right. It doesn't really work that way, James. Because the National Guard isn't going to sit here and be like, all right, cool, let me make sure that your utilities, your cable, your housing, your temporary housing, and all your stuff is, your food and all the stuff is together, right? That's the part where you need these different factions of people who's going to say, hey, insurance company, hey, brokers, hey, whatever, come in, help assess the damage. So if you need people to do all of the stuff, it's there. Army of Engineers, yeah, I'm actually dealing with the issue with Army of Engineers now, but they don't deal with what you're saying, James. Like, the Army of Engineers would more deal with, respectfully, issues regarding waterways and estuaries, right? So case in point, in Florida, if you were building a new bridge that was going over the Everglades, hypothetically speaking, right? It would get to a point of the Army Corps of Engineers are going to study that project and determine what the impact is, not only to the environment, but also the waterways and what federal and state laws say regarding that. And I'm literally going through that with an issue with the Army Corps now regarding two of my clients. One for an issue from some wetlands that we just had a issue with the Broward Planning Council. The Planning Council said no. Army Corps said no. We got the Planning Council lobbyists to say yes, because we had to educate them on the fact of where this was, right? So the Army Corps can sometimes really be a hindrance when it comes to actual things being done, because their perspective is federal, but it really delays the impact for some things. Not everything, but some things. But to your point, they're good, but they still don't handle hurricane relief. Let me get to some other questions. I may be wrapping up for real. I tried to do the Diddy trial, it just wasn't there because I'm a little tired for real. So I'm going to end up doing this. I have one other law I want to share before we wrap up for real, but let's get there. What are all the big plastic boxes FEMA has stockpiled in the Midwest for? I'm not certain of that. Please educate me. What does F in FEMA stand for? Isn't it federal? Hold on now. It is Men's Health Month, right? I want to go to this. Is Men's Health Month, and I want to shout out all my men out there who are just trying to provide and survive, right? I had a good friend of mine, actually, one of the last conversations we had, it was a custom out. Right? It was a trivial thing, but it's all love, right? But committed suicide, as I found out, and it's depressing, and honestly chilled me because my wife knew the gentleman from that time in college together. Hold on, let me fix this 1 second. And it was one of those like college friends. It's like, you know what, damn, always life of the party, always a great vibe, always, great people. And I think that a lot of times great people hide their depression. They hide what they're going through in life. And it's sad because you don't know how many people actually look up to you. Holding on just because you're around and you're there and they're inspired by your daily journey. And then when you hear that someone takes their life for whatever reason, it's honestly depressing. And it makes you reassess, like, okay, what's really serious? What do I need to enjoy? So a lot of time, my Father's Day weekend was spent, enjoying the moments, even though you probably do some stuff you don't want to do and things. And I think that's the life of being a father and a husband, right? It's not our life. It's the kid, it's the wife, it's whatever, right? But there does come a point where you actually say to yourself, you know what, damn, what can I do to take care of my mental? And sometimes you need a break. Even now, my wife is in Phoenix for a conference. My son's with some grandparents. I'm just taking a mental health day and spending time with y'all streaming, right? But it gives me a chance to just take a break and assess life and assess things that need to get done. Prioritize, not overwhelm. And I do think that a lot of times, brothers, men across the board, we put so much on our plate that we never have a chance to escape. And it's sad. And it's unfortunate. Hold on one second. But I do think that there are ways and provisions and laws that, not always laws, that help us. So what I'm gonna do is highlight House Bill 1091, substance abuse and mental health care. It makes substantive changes regarding mental health and substance use services. This bill recognizes Florida's 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline as a component of the coordinated system of care and require DCF to authorize and provide oversight of the 988 Lifeline call centers. Now, of course, we know 911, 411, whatever it is, right? This is at least a great attempt for people dealing with suicide in our state, or at least who are dealing with depression. And I think that depression is one of those things that will take you out more than anything else in the world. But people are going through something, whether they've lost a loved one, a parent, a sibling, a job, had a family member deported, right? Or even here illegally and afraid of what could be next. Life is a journey. We never know what it's going to be, what it's going to take, but it's a journey in itself. But the biggest thing I think is that, we need to honestly try to take care of ourselves, and use the services that are out there. Now, at 988, I want to say it'll be live July 1 as well. If it's not already live, let me click out this, make this full screen. Excuse me, y'all, my bad. But mental health is important. I think that my biggest thing I tell folks is like, why is so much suicide? Like Jacksonville, where I live, is quietly more suicides here than anywhere else in the state of Florida, right? Which is very wild. But we have bridges here, over bodies of water. It makes sense. People just want to let go. However, somebody needs you. So I don't know who may need to hear this tonight or whatever. I know I'm rambling a bit, but take a break, get your mental health together. I know where I was going. Take a break from social media. I honestly feel, hey goddess, social media, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter exposes us to so much that the human brain and mind was never prepared for. And as I raise a son in this world, I think that's one of my greatest fears is saying, okay, what does education look like? What do the rules look like? What is anything between protection of your child, what they're teaching in the classroom, everything, not just public school, private school, just like everything. And it's so scary because that's honestly it. If you're sitting there, like I said earlier, you're at the bus stop, your car broke down, you see somebody in the Range Rover, you see somebody driving by and it look like they've got it all together. It's like, damn, but you don't know internally they're struggling. When I worked at a bank, Bank Atlantic, Florida's most convenient bank, right? It's open 7 days a week, whatever. one thing I realized is that people who had the Hondas and the Acuras and the regular cars, they're the ones that had, hey, Vanessa, they're the ones who had a whole lot of money in the bank. The people who always had an overdraft fee needed to put in a $2,000 check, $1,500 in the hole. Those are people in the Range Rover, the Benzes, and so I never look at the outer appearances to be like, hey, they got it, but I know how most people feel when they're depressed and they go on social media and they're just trying to get away. The only thing they do can get away, the algorithms show them everybody who's getting away. And they start comparing their life. And I think that, again, we're exposed to so much today that we were never supposed to be exposed to. We used to have, think about this, no bull. Your grandmother's generation, your parents' generation, maybe, you know, if you're on the stream and you're young, you probably your parents my age, right? But they had like high school yearbooks. Keep in touch, KIT. Hey, we'll talk to you. And you barely see them years later, high school reunion. The reunion used to be 50, 60 deep. 100 people deep. Oh, I won high school. Oh, probably at prom. I ain't seen such and such or whatever, the love of my life. Now all of a sudden, you see these motherfuckers every day. For the past 10, 20 years, what the fuck I need to go to a reunion for? I don't fuck with y'all. It's not for my reunion. My reunion is like a couple years ago. So we did our 20 year, had a good old time, right? A little drama around it, but it wasn't no major. But to the main point, it was like life has changed. So now that I think of technology, now that I think of me raising a child, potentially have another child, you know, not now, we wife wants one, eventually, right? It gets to a point of saying, all right, cool. How can my mental be prepared for this? So as a husband, as a father, as a black man in America, as a black man who's a professional lobbyist, how can I make sure that I'm prepared and I'm where I need to be? So I do think that programs like this, 988 line, will honestly help people just have a place where they can go and say, hey. But honestly, I think it just needs to be out there. Either way, thank y'all for tapping in tonight. I've been reading through the chat. Dee, Terry, Josh, Lowe, Vanessa. Thank you, everyone. Most likely, I'll be going live if Trump has a press conference tomorrow. I'll tap in there. I got some yard work to do, some other stuff. I just wanted to at least tap in because I haven't streamed since last week, and at least got back to town. Again, no parents, no son, no wife. The good life. So I'm about to wrap this up. Have me a good night, some dessert. Y'all be safe out there. Let me actually check. I forgot to see how many subscribers we got tonight. So we're starting at 3,500, roughly 165. Well, that's my gaming channel. My gaming channel gets no love. Oh, 3820. We picked up about 300 subs tonight. That's amazing. I love y'all, man. Really do appreciate the support as we grow out this channel. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, and the Range Rover transmission is always struggling. And that's another thing. You can look at it, looks amazing, but that maintenance on that bitch, you can have it. My car is paid off. I don't want nothing else. I told my wife that other day, it's like, listen, I get it. I got a couple maintenance issues with my car now. Outside of cleaning the inside, that bit runs perfect. Why do I want a payment? All I have to do is pay insurance. Realistically. Anyway, make sure you hit the like. Make sure you subscribe. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for supporting the stream tonight. Again, if it's the first time here, I'm the hip hop lobbyist. I didn't do my whole spiel tonight, but I'll probably do it tomorrow. Thank y'all. And I'm trying to do some more, as y'all seen, more stuff with real legislation, real staff analysis, whatever, to kind of build the conversation. But I will honestly try to have my show more organized next time. Anyway, I appreciate y'all, my Republicans and Democrats and PAs. We're here together. And remember, even though the state was gay, on this panel, we're bipartisan.